Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio on a Monday. I'm Ravi, Lulla, Andrew Rogers here.
Yes!
Yes! We're happy to be here.
Some color commentators just, oh my goodness, they make me so happy.
I love it. I love a Homer broadcast. Like, not when I'm listening to a game where I have a rooting interest, but just the calls afterward. You see them on Twitter or wherever. And the Homer calls of big plays are absolutely elite.
He had Notre Dame money line.
Oh, yeah. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard our friend at Hurrdat Sports here, Nick Baugh, if you've ever heard him on a Creighton radio call as opposed to a TV call. It's two different people.
The way that he is able to separate his identity in those
it's incredible.
moments.
Yeah. Like the fact that he can do TV and be totally unbiased and a straight up professional. And then he goes and does broadcasts on the Creighton network and just goes right back into
because he sits down in the chair for a UConn, St. John's game, and he's just like, this UConn team is just absolutely special. They have X piece and X piece, and it's he has such an appreciation for Big East basketball. And then he gets onto the Creighton call, and he's like, Coach McDermott, I was talking to him before the game, and he just could not stop talking about Baylor Shireman and the way that he was practicing this week. He just gets so
so excited.
The energy behind it is just different.
Even I'll give him a ton of credit because he'll do Creighton games on TV all the time and doesn't ever slip into Homer mode. It's incredible. I couldn't do it. Like if I was doing – I did a couple Creighton games last year on the radio and was full Homer. But by the way, no, not me. But I could not
Couldn't have guessed that.
I could not do a Creighton game and play it straight. There's no way. And I didn't even play there, and he did obviously. So no, but I love a Homer. I love a Homer call on a broadcast there. So we appreciate all the clips cut out by Shane there to get the morning started. Kind of a crazy weekend. There was a lot going on. Which is
started on Friday.
Oh my gosh. Can I tell you how much I enjoyed waking up to that score?
You woke up to it? I watched it.
I'll be honest. I watched it the next day because I went to bed. I think it was a halftime. It was 29-0. And I was like, man, it's Stanford. Like, all right, whatever. Like Coach Sanders, Colorado, they were due to bounce back here after a couple of rough ones against Oregon and USC. And so I just called it. I was like, I'm good. I'd been out at high school football all night. I was freezing. I'm going to bed, right? I wake up the next morning to our work group chat just with Stanford, exclamation point. You're
like, wait a second.
I'm like, wait, that game was 29-0. What happened? So you go over to my app or whatever, and I'm like 46-43. What incredible. I got to say, and people on Twitter were surprised by this, but I feel like I've been pretty open about how I feel about Dion. I could not have been happier. That was one of the most satisfying results of a college football game I think I've seen all year.
I love to see him lose.
I do too, especially, man, ESPN did a bunch of the screenshots of his face throughout the game, and he basically
where it started to where it ended.
It was
it's kind of like before you get really, really drunk by night's end, right? You start off really excited, right? You're like, all right, this is going to be a great night.
In the middle, you're starting to fade a little.
You see the hours go by. You're like, why'd I do that to myself?
Speaking of which, so I had a friend get married this weekend.
Well,
they got married.
Did you document your drunkenness?
We only had a few pictures, which is probably for the best. But so they actually got married back in March, and then they had their reception now, which is a thing a lot of my people my age are doing now, where they get married in a very small ceremony, then they have a big party later, which I gotta say I love because then you don't have to watch the boring part and you just go to the fun party. Okay, so I'm on board for that. I know you're getting married soon, so listen, just think about it.
Feel free just to show up to the after party. Who cares?
I'm heading down to St. Louis. Watch out. But so I was at a wedding this weekend, and shout out to Nina, congrats. But
just Nina, nobody else.
Josh too.
Nope, just Nina.
Well, I've known Nina since middle school, and I've only met Josh.
Josh doesn't get a shout out. It's cool. We don't do shout outs on this show.
Just to Nina. But so I learned. I've started kind of measuring my age and how long it takes me to recover from one of those type of nights. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice still. It's still a little There's
I don't know if that's an age measurement. I just think it's once you're done with college, it's just all downhill.
I'll
Just
be
all
honest,
downhill.
though, it's progressed as I've gotten older, right? I don't think I had my first hangover until I was like 27,
What?
26,
Did you
27.
live?
Yeah, like it wasn't like I didn't have a good time. It just, the body was able to recover.
Well, yeah, because you were,
I was
you were
young.
lifting like
Yeah.
500
The
pounds.
metabolism was pretty good.
And I'm sure you were just sweating out anything and everything.
Probably true also. But I had my first real bad hangover, I think like 27 years old. And then progressively, it's just gotten I can drink less and get more of a hangover. Yesterday, I was trying to make plans for the rest of the day. And luckily, this sounds terrible. Luckily, my wife was sick, so I had an excuse not to go anywhere. But
sorry, guys. She's sick, so I'm immobile.
Yeah, I was like, no, listen, I gotta stay home, make sure she's okay, take care of things here. But it was a whole day thing. I was like, God, I am getting old. It is getting up there.
I feel that way every day, and people are going to be like, Andrew, you're still in your prime, right? Not Deion Sanders' prime, but you're still in your prime.
No, because you're not blowing a 29-point lead to Stanford.
No, but
you would never.
I blew some different leads today or this weekend on the sports betting train. We'll get into those here in a few. But no, I just feel like alcohol has hit me different since I had gastritis. So I had gastritis.
Okay.
2 years ago.
Okay.
2 years ago around Thanksgiving time. And it was just a lot of alcohol in one night. And ended up not like getting like a stomach pump or anything, but I ended up in the hospital a couple of days later because I just had stabbing pains in my side. And now every time I drink alcohol, I have to really limit how much I drink.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if
causes issues.
It inflames or whatever. It could just be in my head. I could just be thinking that it hurts when it doesn't hurt. But I can't drink like I used to anymore. So I got the old stomach now.
You've got the phantom gastritis.
Yeah. Well, and it depends on what I drink too.
Sure.
Like if I drink a lot of sugary things, then it's gonna be horrible for me. Vodka Club with a lime has kind of been my best friend lately.
Yeah. I can't go anything sugary because then the hangover is it's a 2 day.
I used to do Crown Apple and Sprite. And dude, you mix that with some fried food. Not great as you're watching football on a Saturday. Not great.
So that was it was a fun night. It was a fun night. Yesterday was a little less fun as we're kind of recovering here, but we're back at it.
It's a recovery of 3 days.
It is. No, it's
that's why Friday weddings are awesome.
Oh yeah. So this was a Saturday night. So I was like, I'm gonna be kind of up against it by Monday.
Mm-hmm.
I feel okay. I don't sound great.
I wanted to do a Friday wedding. No, I'm sorry. I wanted to do my wedding on Memorial Day weekend.
So you had Saturday,
so that you had
Sunday,
Monday, so it feels like a Friday wedding.
That's smart, yeah.
Right? But then, with some familial things, it just didn't work out that way. We had to do the week before.
That's smart though.
That's what I really wanted. But it's just hard sometimes because if you do it on Friday, then it feels like super rushed because everybody's working. Or they miss
so
the ceremony
people are trying to get out to work because we did a Friday wedding and it was good for us because we were off work already. But for everybody else, it was, hey, they got to rush home from work, they got to change, they get to the venue, whatever, and then. So it doesn't.
It's like, which one do you take? The lesser of two evils, right?
So the perfect answer is the 3 day weekend Saturday,
right? And so that's what I was aiming for, and it just didn't work out. But I also like the recovery time for that.
Yeah, you need the
because
time.
Even my sister's wedding, I thought I was on the radio last Monday, and Avery stepped in into the seat, and I was like, "Oh, great! I got 2 days to recover now. I'll see you Tuesday, Ravi."
I was like, "Buddy, just wait till Monday to come home. You'll be okay."
Yeah, but over the weekend, I had a buddy in town, and he came through from Wichita, joined me for the UNL hockey games, which Shane was present at on Saturday. Shane, did you enjoy yourself?
I did. It was a good time.
A 2-1 game, and it was funny because I went up to the suite in the third period, because Shane gets, the royal treatment.
Yeah, VIP.
Yeah. And Shane's sitting on a step. There's multiple seats in this suite open, and he's sitting on a step next to Sauter, which made me laugh. I'm like, Sauter, you put your 2 kids in the seats next to you, and you couldn't give Shane one of them?
I know. I agree, Shane. They're kids. They can sit on steps.
But my favorite thing about Shane is, the whole time he was, practically recording the game, in the zone.
Oh,
when when the Mavs were in the offensive zone, it was Shane on his phone, like taking video. And then at one point there was either a major penalty or a shot that like hit the post or something. And I watched Shane stop his record and scroll back and like watch it before anybody else got to see it.
Like live instant replay?
I think it was when you saw the major penalty.
Or it was when the goal was because of the offside.
Oh, it was reverse for offside. That's exactly what it was.
I love it.
And so he paused it and goes back because they can't show reviews in venue.
Yep.
But Shane got it all on his
Don't
phone.
worry, I got
so I'm watching him scroll through. Did you see the offside? Was it offside?
I didn't see it because if it was that guy was slightly out of camera.
I mean, if that isn't a Shane moment, I don't know what is.
Listen, he's always producing. Always.
Content on content on content.
You love to see it.
Speaking of offside, oh my gosh.
Uh-oh.
So, we needed to make some money back this weekend.
Okay.
Like that was like the mindset after Friday.
Struggling a little bit?
After Friday, we needed to make some money back. And so I placed a bet on 4 goal scorers in hockey. Pretty outrageous, but also like not as crazy as you would think when you bet on guys like William Nylander, who has scored in like 2 of his first 4 games.
Sure.
And, you bet on like the McDavids of the world and things. But I kind of kept it a little looser. So I bet on Kyle Connor, goal scorer for the Jets. He ended up scoring at 3:00. So I only need three more in the 6:00 slate.
Feeling good?
Right. And of course, I had a bet on Jake Gensel, Omaha product.
Have to.
And he's playing when we're at the Mavericks game.
Got
he
you.
ended up scoring at the Mavericks game, not at the Mavericks game.
While
I was there watching
the Mavericks,
Mavericks game and actually working. I don't just watch. I work there too.
Yeah, sure.
Sometimes. And then the third leg of that was William Nylander, like I said. But the fourth one was Mika Zibanejad, which if you are watching on the stream right now, you can see Zibanejad, -9.5. Here's the first part of my story. So, I'm constantly checking. Then I'm doing a little MC work. I'm constantly checking again, doing some more MC work. And, I'm doing a hit at the very end of the game. And my buddy is streaming the game back in the tunnel, but I'm doing a game with the fans. So I come off the ice from doing that. And I come back and I just see him like this.
Oh,
and
no.
I go, is that
no.
a good forehead thing or a bad? Because like this could be anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like, can you believe it? Or, dude, you're not going to believe it.
I would guess bad. That just my instant reaction was that's a bad one.
He goes,
that's like a soccer player just missed a goal.
He goes, the Rangers were on a power play.
Oh, no.
Mika was on the ice. Kreider just went to slap the puck over to Mika. It would have come through the crease. Mika, wide open goal on the other side, hits the defenseman's skate, goes into the goal.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, oh, dang, you got to be kidding me. So that bet didn't hit. It was like to win like $850.
Yeah.
Doesn't that seem a little early for that kind of a bet? I mean, don't you want to wait like a month or so just to see how guys are kind of...
I based it solely off of what they did last year.
Oh, okay.
So I was looking for the carryover effect.
Sure.
Well, that's not even the worst of it.
Oh, no.
So you're probably like, Andrew, you mentioned offsides. Like, what is this offsides thing? Well, earlier in the game, a Rangers goal was called back for offside.
Okay.
I bet you can guess who scored that goal. So I didn't know this, but I'm going through Twitter because I saw somebody post something earlier of Zeba goal 2-1, baby.
Yeah.
That was the tweet. And I'm like, wait a second. 2-1.
Yeah.
I mean, I remembered seeing 2-0 Rangers and then saying 1-0, but I didn't remember seeing Zibanejad's name on there. I thought I saw somebody else, so I didn't really pay too close of attention to it. Well, come to find out, not only did Zeba score that goal and they get called back for offside, but the guy who scored the last goal, who tried to pass the puck to Zeba, was the guy that was offside.
That's pretty.
So Chris Kreider, he's blacklisted.
Blacklisted? He's out. He's not invited to the wedding?
No, he's gone. He's
Cutting
gone.
him out.
Yep. Even if he would have paid for it, he's gone. No, he's not. He's not coming. He's not coming to the wedding.
He's gonna have to pay your bet out in order.
Yep.
To get
That's his entry fee. So yeah, I was just like, you've got to be kidding.
So hold on, answer me this real quick. So I know with baseball, you like doing the home run parlays. What are the odds like versus a to score a goal versus a
lot
home run
easier.
parlay?
A lot easier in hockey. So the odds to score a goal in hockey are probably about plus 125 up to plus 140 is what I normally play.
Kind of depending on who the guy is.
Yeah, and you could have bet on McKinnon to score, and he was like minus 135.
Okay, sure.
Matthews, I think, had a hat trick that night. He was minus 140 to score.
Okay.
So if you get the main goal scorers,
it's
like betting a money line.
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
it's like betting. What was was Notre Dame minus money this week? Like minus 120 or something like that against USC?
I think so.
It's kind of like betting something of that.
Sure.
Like
a fairly even game money line.
Yeah. So it's looking at that from the perspective of a goal scorer
Sure.
too. Well, then if you look at the back half of my name, what does it say, Ravi?
Hold on. Where are we here?
Got to scroll over to people.
Oh, yeah.
Got to scroll over to people.
So I was on my comments. Zabinajed minus 9.5.
Minus 9.5. What do you think that minus 9.5 is meant for?
49ers, Browns.
No, but
because that one ended not minus 9.5.
Yeah, decent guess. This minus 9.5 was Wisconsin over Iowa.
Yeah.
But it's actually, I didn't get the play at minus 9.5. I got the play at plus 1.5 in favor of Wisconsin.
Okay.
When Iowa took the 7-0 lead.
Okay.
Plus 1.5. This is a team that was favored by 10 points.
And you got them at plus 1.5.
And I got them
down 7-0.
Correct.
Not bad.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, good live odds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I built another college football parlay.
Especially considering the chances of Iowa scoring another touchdown were very low.
And
they did not.
We know Big Ten West football, right? We know how bad that Iowa offense is.
Yes.
If they didn't have a fluke offensive 80-yard play.
Yeah, they can't sustain a drive.
No.
It's just, hey, that guy housed it. Like, okay,
he got lucky.
Yeah.
It's either him or it's Cooper DeJean running a punt return back. Like that's the only offense
or pick six
that we see, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, plus 1.5. Like, this seems like a really good time to grab it. And then I parlayed like 5 other things in that bet. Like Oregon plus 4.5, which hit. I got that live odds. I know. Well, talk about a game that they just kicked away.
I got a push on Oregon because I had them at minus 3. So I got my push. I'll be okay.
They should have went to OT. I couldn't believe he missed that field goal. That was basically extra point distance.
Yeah. It wasn't bad at all.
Right down the middle too.
Yeah. Kind of like my Jake Moody miss yesterday, but that's fine.
That was also surprising to me. But yeah, so I put together a 5-legger, and it was like another, I think it was 20 to win, like 540. It was a significant amount of money. Get you back, right?
Yeah.
You're looking to just get back, get even. No, 5 out of 6. 5 out of 6 because Wisconsin didn't pull it off. And then I had another 3 out of 4 finish for like 200 and something, which could have helped. Wouldn't have gotten me back. It could have helped. And I bet the under in the KU Oklahoma State game. And first thing you're thinking is, why are you betting the under on KU?
Sure.
Right? Because that defense is so bad.
Yeah.
And the offense really has performed pretty well
pretty good,
since last year.
Yeah.
Again,
even with the backup quarterback,
we talk about carryover effect, right? Coming into this year. And no joke, the stat before the game was Oklahoma State in its last 13 drives hadn't scored a touchdown.
Yeah, no, they've been really bad.
So since the second half of last week's game, they didn't score a touchdown. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, the sharp play was on the under. I'm going to bet the under because somebody knows more than I do.
Sure.
Yeah.
What was that?
Was I incorrect?
What was that number at?
I got it at 55.
And I'm going, 69?
Yeah.
I think, right?
69 or 71 or something crazy.
32, something like that?
Yes. I believe that was spot on. So they were, I think the first quarter, it was like 28 or 35 points.
Yeah, they got off to a fast start.
Every other play was a 40-yard touchdown pass. Every other play.
Not a lot of defense to be had in that one.
And I'm just like, here we go again. Here we go.
So that's one of those
3 out of 4 on that one too.
So I actually don't hate that because a lot of times people assume a team will score just because they're playing a bad defense, but they forget to account for the fact that the offense is actually incompetent. Like it only matters if you have a functional offense if you're playing a bad defense.
Correct.
Right? If you have an incompetent offense, it doesn't matter if you're playing air, you're still not scoring.
Right.
Like Iowa, doesn't matter who they're playing, they're not scoring. Like they're just not a good offense. They're not competent.
And you're probably not scoring against them.
Yeah, right. Which is
how they win games.
They stay in games, right? But Iowa, it doesn't matter if you're throwing out the 85 Bears or Kansas this year. They're probably not scoring.
The 85 Bears.
Like, they're just not scoring either
Thanks
way.
for giving me some love.
I'm just trying to help out,
After Justin Fields goes down with injury.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. Maybe end up with Caleb Williams now.
I don't know. Like, first off, he doesn't want to play. And also, dude's not the Heisman. Like, let's be real. Caleb Williams is not the Heisman.
No, I don't think
and
so.
I think Penix did a really nice job in securing his spot in the Heisman race.
Yeah,
I think Bo Nix is still up there, but Penix did a better job of making a name for himself.
Is really good.
But is it Tyson Bagent? Is it Tyson? I know it's Bagent.
Yeah.
The quarterback, the backup quarterback for the Bears that played like D3 football.
Yeah,
D2, whatever
D2
it was.
is like Shepherd University.
Yeah, Shepherd College. Yeah, that's exactly where he played. Talk about somebody that I'm like, if Justin Fields isn't playing, I'd rather have him than the Mike Glennons of the world.
Although I will say, I felt terrible for him because his first play in, he gets like strip sack touchdown the other way, and I was like, "Ooh, that's a tough start."
It's all good, man. All good.
That's a tough start to a career.
Yeah, he ended up scoring or throwing a touchdown.
No, he ended up looking okay, but that first play, I was like, "Oh, that's rough." He looked like a D2 quarterback on that play.
Yeah.
No offense to our D2 friends out there, but it's a long way from that to the NFL.
Yeah.
It's a long road there.
My boy TK on YouTube, got to stop betting against Iowa. AR, always go under. I would have bet the under, but I bet it live because I got the plus 1.5 live.
Yeah.
The under already at that point was like 24. From 38 to 24.
And
I'm
you
like,
still would have hit the under.
Well, no one could have predicted Tanner Mordecai to leave that game, right?
I'm not sure it would have mattered. I mean,
we had backup quarterback galore in that game.
Deacon Hill, baby.
Not good.
Man, he spells Deacon with 2 C's like he spells thick. He's a big boy. He's not a little guy.
And we know he's not running many hills.
He certainly isn't. All right, coming up next, we'll set up the show. We've got lots for you here today. A lot of college football, a lot of NFL. We're going to preview a tiny bit of NBA coming up later. We will do all that. We'll set up the show. We're going to play a little game today, too.
New game.
Game show host, MC Andrew Rogers over here.
New game, and I'll tease it. It's called Shane's World.
Uh-oh. Here we go. We'll got more of Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi, Lulla, Andrew Rogers here with me. You can listen to us on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're on Twitter, YouTube, or wherever you find your podcasts. Make sure you tune in. We have a good show for you. Some may say a great show. We'll see.
I feel like I'm in a montage of Stranger Things with that music in the background.
With a little,
I feel like I'm riding my bike right now through the town as I'm trying to go complete a task in the show.
See,
right?
I never.
I'm hiding Elle in the picnic basket.
I never watched Stranger Things.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, missing out, man.
I steer away from anything that's even like a little creepy. That's just not my vibe.
Yeah. I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
So you're not a horror movie guy by any means?
No, not at all. I'm so bad about horror movies. If like I think we talked.
Yeah,
about
we did talk about this last week.
I changed the channel immediately.
Yeah, I
thought
that was more of a joke.
No,
but
that's a real thing. That's a real thing. No. So listen, I think I've watched one horror movie in my life ever. I was hanging out with this girl in high school, and they were showing The Exorcist at like the Dundee Theater or whatever. And
dollar movies? Or were they 50 cents back then?
It was a quarter, but that's okay. No.
Yeah.
Back in my high school days? No. And so we went to this thing, and I get it's cheesy and the graphics are bad and whatever. And like, there were literally people laughing in the theater.
What is it, like Scream?
No, it's more serious than Scream.
Okay.
At the time, it was one of, it was considered like kind of a pioneer in the horror genre, right?
Like Final Destination.
No, also I have seen Final Destination. I didn't think that was that bad, but
it's just funny.
Yeah. But The Exorcist like traumatized me.
There is someone.
It is a little creepy.
And so I just couldn't do it. And ever since then, I was like, no, I'm out on horror movies. I don't care what the circumstances are.
So you would never, ever watch The Conjuring?
God, no.
That's a great punishment sometimes, Shane. We got to write that down.
I mean, listen, you can assign it. I'm not doing it.
No, we're making you do it. We'll watch it here.
I'll just close my eyes the whole time. I don't even care. That's what I do in movie theaters with like creepy.
No, you get a pop quiz, and if you fail, you watch Sinister.
I'll fail that pop quiz too. I don't care. I'm 36 years old. I'm not doing anything I don't want to do.
I got plenty of movies on my list, Ravi.
I'm not doing anything I don't want to do.
Annabelle's next.
Yeah, in like movie theaters when creepy previews come up, I go head down, not doing it. So yeah, I not about the creepy movie, creepy TV show. Like I can't do it. So I
what
haven't
if
seen
what if
Stranger
your
Things.
wife one day was just like, "Hey, Ravi, like I know you don't want to watch this, but like I really am interested in like staying the night in a haunted house."
Yeah, she's gonna do that on her own. She knows what she got into. I was very clear up front.
First day you met, I can't do scary movies.
Not the first day, but no. So it's I kind of went through.
I'm kind of a wuss. I know I look tough, but when it comes to horror movies, not me.
Incredibly a wuss. Like I'm okay. I'll own that. No, I was very clear with her, like, because this is not my first go around on marriage, and so I learned some lessons the first time around, and so I was just very I learned that, like, listen, there's some things I'm not gonna do. So I was like, if you're really interested in like camping and being outdoorsy, you should probably move on. I know I'm wearing a flannel shirt here, like it's not for me. This is only for the look because I have a beard. I was like, I'm not going camping.
You took off your boots before you walked in.
I know. I'm wearing the Jordan 1s today. But no, I'm like, listen, I don't go camping. I'm not real outdoorsy. I was like, if these are things that are really important to you, it's probably best you move on. So I think horror movies were part of kind of my spiel there. I was just like, we're not doing
You
this.
just slid them in. Like,
yeah, I was just like,
I'm not outdoorsy. I'm not a camper. Just like getting dirty horror movies in.
Yeah, not doing horror movies. I'm not real handy around the house. Listen, everything's on the table. So if you know what you're getting into and you still sign up for it, like we're good. But if you want to move on, no hard feelings. But this is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 30 years old. I'm probably not changing. All right. So like,
fair enough.
I don't sleep in cloth houses. I don't like.
Why not?
Tents. I don't like them. Not a fan. I need locked doors.
Yeah, I'm not much of a camper either. I would much rather camp and glamp.
Yeah, I'll do like a cabin. I need a locked door. I need like a structure and a locked door.
Yeah, or RV.
I could do an RV, like a nice RV.
Yeah,
I could do.
It could be any RV. I don't really care.
I'm a little bougie, so
are there fresh bed sheets? Or looking at ones over at
I need a solid structure. If my house can fold up and fit into something about pocket size, that's not going to work for me. Mm-hmm. I need a solid structure. So, but yeah, no, I'm not a big camper guy. That's not gonna.
That's all right.
It's not for me. You know what it is for me? Sam McKewon at 8:00. We're gonna talk to our friend Sam, coming off a bye week. I can't
wait to talk to Sam. Haven't talked to him in a while.
I wonder how he spent his bye week.
Probably working.
Probably. The man works very hard.
Or watching the Bears lose like I did.
Oof. Yeah. Yeah. We got Vinnie Iyer coming up at 8:45 to talk about the NFL. Mm-hmm. A pretty interesting NFL slate. 49ers and Eagles both lost.
Just kind of a weird weekend. Again, it was one of those weekends too where injuries just kind of took over.
Yeah, there are a ton of injuries.
I mean, what week was that when injuries were just bad? Was that week 2, week 3?
Yeah, I think it was week 2.
It was just bad. And then again this week,
it was just a rough week.
Okay, are you at all worried as a 49ers fan that they may be overusing Christian McCaffrey?
This is not an exaggeration, and it's going to sound like I'm making a joke here. Every time he gets hit, I hold my breath for just like a little second.
Kind of like a quarterback, right?
Quarterback, yeah. Anybody who's sort of injury prone. I don't know if like you remember Sean Livingston in the NBA. He had that like horrific knee injury.
Oh yeah.
And so like every time he jumped after that, and I'm a big Warriors fan. So every time he jumped after that, when he landed, I was just like, especially if he was in like traffic or something, I was like, ugh!
Well, it's kind of like when Brock Bowers got injured this weekend.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm like, because I play in, dynasty fantasy leagues, and I'm like, I'm going to draft Brock Bowers next year because I know I have secured the number 1 pick. I don't care what happens next. Like, I'm taking Brock Bowers. But every time he catches the football, I'm like, squirming. And I'm and then when he got tackled and I saw that he was slow to get up, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And then it was just one thing after another for my fantasy day. Like David Montgomery went out. I already lost 4 guys in one league. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Justin Fields is now down. Injury after injury after injury. Yeah. Those guys, there are guys out there though that you just hold your breath.
It's just, and with McCaffrey's history, obviously that factors in a big part of it. But I do wish they would. I don't know if save him's the right word because obviously he's really good and he stayed healthy all last year.
You got to use him,
but you've got enough weapons that you don't have to overuse him. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You've got Debo, who also got banged up. You've got Ayuk. You've got Kittle. You've got Juszczyk, who I really like.
Jordan Mason can be.
He was a very solid back.
Yeah, you can suffice with him.
Yeah, especially with the way like all the other weapons, they're not going to be keying on your backup running back, so you can kind of sneak him in there at certain places. Juwan Jennings is pretty solid. They've got enough guys that I do feel like maybe they overuse him a little bit, but
I just hope it's not long term.
I do too. I mean, it's an oblique, so I'm hoping it's not terrible. I'm a little more worried about the Debo shoulder,
which is funny. Isn't that funny?
way he plays,
Right.
like that seems like it might be a bigger issue. An oblique feels like one of those things that might be kind of nagging, but it probably is not as serious. I believe
that's what Montgomery had too, because he landed on the football and
the oblique.
Yeah,
because it's like right in your rib cage, right? Is right in there, and so
I believe it was Shaq Barrett that laid right on top of him.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of weird because it feels like, okay, that could be really serious, but in my head, it sounds less serious than a shoulder. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not super worried at this point in the season. I don't think either one of those are long term, probably, and. I almost feel like I do, and we're going to talk to Ricky O'Donnell of SB Nation about the NBA later, but I almost feel like I do with Chris Paul and the Warriors. It's like, hey, I'd rather you miss like 30 games in the middle of the season and be healthy for the playoffs than play 70 games during the regular season and then not be healthy when it comes time for the playoffs. So if this is kind of one of those like, hey, they miss a few weeks in the middle of the season, they stay fresh, even if the 49ers drop a couple of those games, they're still going to make the playoffs. They'll be fine. I'm not too worried about it. As long as they can get them healthy when it matters, that's the thing. That's the biggest deal for me. So we'll see.
It's a big we'll see game at this point.
I mean, it's a we'll see.
I was looking at the NFL standings too, and I'm just kind of like, all right, is the best team in the AFC the Chiefs? Because like, at least for the last few years, everyone could easily say the best team in the AFC is the Chiefs.
It probably still is.
You think it is still?
I think so. I mean, who are you thinking?
Well, I thought the Dolphins. The Dolphins altogether seem like a team that have it figured out more. When you have the Patrick Mahomes treatment, it's easier to make up for the mistakes because you have a guy like him that can just clean up the mess.
He covers.
He's the ultimate cleaning crew.
Yeah, he covers up a variety. I mean, he kind of has the. I know people compare Caleb Williams to him, which I think is unfair to both parties, but. Like Caleb Williams, he covers up for a multitude of other flaws. I do think Kansas City's defense is better than Miami's right now. Kansas City's been playing really good defense.
And then I look at the NFC and I'm like, who's the best team there? Is it the Eagles? Is it the 49ers?
I still think it's a coin flip between the Eagles
Beating on the door is the Lions right now, and defensively they look pretty strong too. They're not in the same category just yet, but they're close.
They're playing good ball. Coming up next, we will wrap up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
What was that touchdown song?
I don't know.
That sounded like I was going through an amusement park ride at Disney World.
This sounds like the song that Team India is going to play when they win the cricket gold medal.
Which just got approved.
Yes, it did, baby. Along with, we were talking about this last week, flag football also got approved. I'm excited. I doubt we're going to see NFL players in there. Although Tyreek Hill kind of hinted at maybe he would want to play. But I am excited. I think it's going to be fun to see flag football in the Olympics. Cricket also got approved. Lacrosse got approved. Baseball, softball back in after a hiatus as well. So
let's talk baseball here. Are Major League Baseball players going to be a part of that?
I don't know.
Because you already have the World Baseball Classic.
And previously in the Olympics, it was a lot of like AAA borderline guys.
I think it would be sweet to bring the best college players out.
And
then we send them.
That would be kind of like they used to with the basketball.
Right. Yeah. Instead of like, all the teams from the College World Series, right? You make a College World Series all-star team.
Ooh, okay.
And then just send them off.
I'd be down for that
and do the same with softball. Jordy Ball can pitch.
Absolutely. She might make the team regardless of who they send, right? Like that's right up her alley. But no, I think it'll be fun. I'm going to be really excited to see both baseball and football, flag football, who they end up sending, what types of players they end up sending there. But that should be a good time. I'm weirdly excited about the flag football thing. Like I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I'm
curious to see it work.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what it looks like as much as anything and who's going to play, stuff like that. Because even if you don't have NFL guys, I feel like you might get a bunch of really high-level college guys that, those guys that are really good college players but aren't great NFL prospects. I kind of love those guys.
Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like those types of dudes that you just kind of look at and you're like, I don't know how much they're going to do in the NFL, but they're great college player. So I'm kind of excited to see, like, Tebow would have been a perfect flag football quarterback, right? like incredible.
Well, maybe
Well,
we saw him throw that duck in
fair.
What was that?
But that level,
offseason,
that
I
like
guess.
type of player though, right? Where it's like I don't really know where he fits in the NFL, but he's a great football player. That type of guy is, I think you're going to see a lot of those. So I'm excited about that. Let's get to our guy Nate on the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline. He wants to talk about the 49ers. Nate, what do you got going on?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
What's up, Nate?
Yeah, man, great weekend of football and stuff. And yeah, I agree with you guys, man. I think they ought to, kind of not use McCaffrey as much. I mean, he ain't the biggest guy, And yeah,
he's just a workhorse.
He is, but he took some major hits last week against the Cowboys. I'm surprised he finished the game last week. I
kind of feel like that a lot, Nate. I feel like he gets hit a lot, and not that he doesn't take hits well, but some guys seem to get hit a little bit harder than others. I don't know if it's because he's always fighting for yardage or whatever, but you go in and go old school, a guy like Warwick Dunn, like that guy never got hit clean. It seems like McCaffrey gets hit clean almost every play.
Well, because Warwick Dunn knew to get down,
right?
You know, you got to get down. And another thing, guys, like I don't know if I really like watching football anymore because it done turned into the referee show. It's like the players don't determine the games no more. It's the referees. And I'm like, man, like my blood pressure be through the roof watching the game because of the referees. I get so pissed off at the refs because I'd be like, I'm tired of watching the refs. Let the players play just a little bit.
Do you think? Do you think like the technology behind watching sports kind of makes you feel that way too, seeing every angle, every replay, everything in slow motion to where either they get it right or they just completely get it wrong?
Yeah, it does because, we got these high-def TVs, man, and, so it does. But I really think it's too much. It's too many penalties. And I know they want to score touchdowns and they, but I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it. Thanks for taking my call, man.
Hey, Nate, thank you. Nate. Call anytime. In regards to that, I mean, people know how I think about officiating, but I can go into it a little bit here. Like, some things really make me mad.
Okay.
Like when Tyreek Hill gets flagged for doing a backflip on his personal
grabbing a cell phone.
Yeah, well, it was his personal videographer's cell phone. Like it was pre-planned. The fact that you get flagged for that, like, what are we doing?
That's pretty dumb.
Like,
who cares?
All of that is just a part about it's the exciting nature of sports, right? You hit a grand slam. Bryson Stott slams the bat down. I remember talking to my dad about this, and he just doesn't like it. He doesn't like those antics.
I love a bat flip. Give me a bat flip all day.
And that's cool. Like, you can like it, you can dislike it, whatever, but I don't think it should ever be a penalty.
Right.
Ever. Like, you shouldn't get tossed for it in baseball.
Thing, right?
Right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't get flagged for it in football. It's all about the emotion of the game.
Yeah.
And unless you're like in that moment and you're the one that is experiencing that moment, like you would have a different view on it. And plus, if it was your team, you would have it would be night and day different of how you would handle it. Because if this was Albert Pujols doing a bat flip, it would be like, oh my gosh, St. Louis would be like, that was so cool.
But then your dad might be a little more forgiving with Albert Pujols.
But like if it's Anthony Rizzo playing for the Cubs in the World Series, and then you see that, I can't stand him. Oh, what a
cocky so-and-so.
Right. And I just think it's a different feeling. It's a different reaction. But let's going back to referees here instead of the family like internal drama that we like start back and forth with one another, which is always fun. It's all good fun.
For me, penalties should exist for two reasons: player safety and to make sure the rules of the game are played correctly, right? That they're enforced and the game is played correctly. Penalizing Tyreek Hill accomplishes neither of those things. Penalizing things like that don't help the game, right? It might just be like, oh, we want our players to act a certain way. It's like, well, listen, you want the game to be fun. You want to have fan experience to be better than it has been. Those are the things you should allow. It's the same thing, you're talking about it with baseball, and they don't usually penalize them necessarily. Sometimes guys get tossed if it's over the top, but part of the fun of baseball is the emotion and the excitement. You see it a lot with, sometimes people get kind of upset with players from like Latin America because they play the game in a different way, in a much more kind of passionate way than a lot of American-born players.
What I love about Javi Baez, and the way he plays.
Yeah, and so, but it's really engaging for fans to watch players do that. But you kind of have your old school baseball guys that are like, oh, that's not how the game's supposed to be played. And it's like, well, where they come from, that's exactly how the game's supposed to be played. Or you've got players from like Asia and Japan where they're typically very buttoned up, and it's just different everywhere that you go, where you grew up, what culture you came from. And so it's really hard to say, well, oh, that's not how the game's supposed to be played. It's like, well, sometimes it is. Like sometimes, depending on where you're from, where you grew up, and there's different parts of this country where you grow up differently and the game is played in a different way because of that, right? Like, oh, this is how we were taught to play. You're supposed to play with passion and excitement. And like, listen, baseball is more fun when the guys seem like they're having fun, right? Every sport is more fun, I think, when the guys playing seem to be having a good time.
I like a little jawing back and forth. It just makes the game a little more competitive.
I know the
spirits are fired up.
I know the arguments like, oh, these guys are going to get chippy. They're going to get into fights. It's like, listen, they're adults. If they can't stop themselves from fighting other grown adults because somebody said something mean that they didn't like, then they need to go all the way back to kindergarten and figure that out.
Now, I will say, though, I will say a little bit of the stuff like pre-game that we're kind of seeing, that stuff I'm not for.
No, but like if you're celebrating a touchdown and like celebrating,
if it's an in-game moment, I'm for it.
And
if it's in the windows of the first through the ninth inning or the first snap till the last second of the game, I'm for it. If it's all that stuff beforehand, and like you kind of see it with at the college level with Colorado's football team, and then you saw it a little bit with the 49ers and the Browns yesterday, like
before the game.
Like I'm just kind of like, all right, guys,
I don't need that.
No, but
because that
during
has
the game,
to do with the game,
during the game, if this is how high spirited it got, then perfect.
And I'm all about celebrating your accomplishments with your team, now, as opposed to taunting. Which, listen, I'm okay with a little bit of trash talk, but if you're standing over guys and stuff like that, like that's kind of inciting a problem. Should the other guy still know better than to actually start a fight? Absolutely, but I understand that kind of thing getting flagged. But the Tyreek Hill thing, especially, is a great example of who does that hurt? That doesn't hurt anybody. He's not taunting the other team.
You're throwing a flag to throw a flag.
Yeah, he's not taunting the other team. He's not doing anything to incite a fight or anything like that. He's just celebrating his accomplishment with a member
with a little creativity.
Yeah, and a member of his team, right? Like I get it's not an Dolphins employee necessarily.
But even if it was a fan's phone, you know how awesome that is for the sport?
You know how great that is for the fan? Like they'll remember that experience for the rest of their life.
But like the NFL you would be trending all over Twitter, all over Facebook, whatever.
Let me tell you, who's one of the most memorable guys in the sport? Terrell Owens, right? Get the Sharpie out of the sock. Chad Johnson getting the cell phone out. You think we remember a lot about Chad Johnson on those Bengals teams if he wasn't doing the things he was doing? Like, come on, man. Like that's.
I believe you mean Ocho Cinco.
Oh my boy, it was Johnson at the time when he was Johnson at the time when he had the cell phone. Or like Joe Horn, I think, did one for the Saints back in the day. Like it makes the game more fun.
In Major League Baseball, are you including when the pitcher throws the ball at the batter the next time up as in part of the fighting?
I mean, with throwing at guys is a little different because that does become a safety issue.
Right.
I get that it's still,
and that's totally a safety issue.
And I'm okay with that being part of the game. But man, if you're going to throw at a guy, it better be mid back or butt.
And that's for one for sure. But two, there's different ways to stand up for your teammate in different sports.
Absolutely.
Right? Baseball is throwing it at that next guy.
Yeah.
Right. Hockey is attacking the guy that attacked your guy.
Absolutely.
Football's a little bit of the same.
Yeah.
Right. Now there's an extent to how far you can
there's
go
ways
with it.
You can do that.
You don't throw the ball at the batter's head.
No, it's like rib cage down.
Right. You don't. Take your skate and kick somebody.
You're not trying to stab somebody with your skate, right?
Right.
You're not trying to blindside somebody after the whistle.
But I think that goes back to being a teammate, standing up for your guy, because you can respect that.
And understanding the limits of which the game allows you to stand up for your guy. Coming up next, we're going to talk with Sam McKewon of the Omaha World-Herald. Wonder how he spent his bye week and how he's getting ready for big old Northwestern. Coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back.
Kicking off hour number 2 with our friend Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, how are you this morning?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Sam, great to hear from you. I don't know if I can say good though because of how the Bears have been looking. I don't know about you, but I'm not feeling 22 like Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift right now. I'm feeling down in the dumps.
Yeah, So I'm married into a Browns family. So yesterday was a pretty cool day for us. So
Not
we
that
were
cool for me,
watching
Sam, but all right.
I know. So it's pretty cool stuff for us yesterday. We get to enjoy two teams at the same time, right? So the Bears were playing at the same time. So yeah, like I mean the Bears aren't very good, and their offense is terrible, and now their quarterback's hurt, and you have to decide whether you want to kind of play for the draft pick and go ahead and get Caleb Williams or Shadur Sanders or Drake May, one of the three, I suppose, or Michael Penix if that's what you want. I don't think he's a top 10 pick, but whatever you want, or you can try to make a push for the playoffs. I mean, I really don't think the Bears are going to make the playoffs. So I think, it is what it is. We'll win a couple of games along the way, I'm sure. But I'm excited about the Browns too, because they have a legitimate chance to win their division and to make a run in the playoffs. They really, really do. Their defense is that good. So it was a mixed bag on Sunday for me.
Sam, do you believe in the empty threats that Caleb Williams will only play for 5 teams and 5 teams only?
I do. Yep.
So you don't think he'll end up being a Chicago Bear then? Because that team obviously wasn't on the list.
Right. I don't know. I mean, I think Caleb Williams, it depends on whether the Bears are able to get the ball moving on a stadium and, get out to the suburbs and play in the dome. I think if that happens, then the conversation will change really quickly. I don't know. Caleb Williams could probably do that if he wants to. That's kind of the way that professional sports is working. It doesn't, I don't know if it's going to fit exactly the way he wants, but there's a lot of players that think they play in the NBA now and imagine their ability to sort of shape and their trajectory. And very few players have been able to pull it off, but Caleb Williams might be able to do it. John Elway did it, and Eli Manning did it. So, and they won Super Bowls. So maybe Caleb Williams will get what he wants.
Sam, do you think Caleb Williams is aware that if he wants to be drafted number 1 overall, that he's going to go to a pretty bad franchise?
I do. Yep, I do. I think he knows that. For sure. I think
you got to get what I mean, though. Like it's not like he's going to go to a great franchise going where he's going to go, right? Like that's just not an option.
No, it's not. And again, some of the teams that he wants to play for aren't necessarily great. The Vikings are 2-4. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I mean, he's in a situation. The Giants are awful too, right? So he's in a situation where he's surrounded by yes people. His coach is kind of a baby, and so like he is. He's
not
a great,
wrong
he's
there.
a really good mind, but he is. I mean, I'm not sure how long I'm going to do this, and the whole thing with what's going on out there. He's a great coach, but he's got a weird kind of shape your own future kind of vibe too. So we'll see what Caleb Williams decides to do, but I think eventually he's going to be in a place where they win a lot of. He's not going to the 49ers. That's dumb. So like they'll figure it out eventually, and I'm sure he'll acquiesce to to some team or another that maybe isn't the perfect fit, but I don't know why he wants to go play for the Giants. I have no idea.
That one's wild to me too.
Yeah, it's just so I think a lot of that's just based on sort of childish impulses, and that stuff will eventually go away, and he's a great player. He had a bad game on Saturday, but he's a great player, and he will be very, very good in the pros.
Sam, not much to talk about Nebraska game-wise this past weekend. We'll get into a few things with coach recruiting and the second half of their season in a hot sec. But I kind of have a 2-part question here for you first. How much did this weekend's Big Ten West college football slate give you confidence no opponent on the schedule can be given the early win against Nebraska?
Yeah, I mean, I went into the weekend with confidence in that anyway. Maryland didn't change that. I mean, I have a pretty good sense of what Maryland's going to be when it rolls in here on November 11th, and it's going to be a beat-up team. That's been the MO for Maryland. Their record in November is terrible. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but they're not good in November. And you kind of saw it against Illinois. You know, Maryland is still working on the physicality piece. You know, what it takes to win, to play in the league week in and week out, and match the physical challenge. I think at least one of the teams from the West Coast 4 is going to be that way too. I don't know which one it's going to be. I think UCLA's built some toughness, but there could be something there too. So, you know, Maryland's still getting there. It's still in a lot of ways, even though it's been in the league for 9 years, feels like an ACC program. And I thought they kind of took it to the chin a little bit against Illinois. Illinois is not very good, but they're more physical than Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nebraska will have a physical advantage when Maryland comes to Lincoln. They won't have a skill advantage by any means, but they'll have a physical advantage. You know, the team that actually controls its destiny, and this is sort of goofy because they don't really control their destiny, but they technically do, is Minnesota. You know, now I think they still got to play Ohio State. So again, it's sort of silly to project it that way. But if Minnesota won out, I think they would win the West because they have all the teams left that need to be played. But presuming that Minnesota loses to Ohio State, which I think is a pretty good presumption, Nebraska controls its destiny. They control the whole thing. So if they win out and Minnesota does what everyone expects them to do, which is lose to Ohio State, Nebraska wins the West. So there's no reason for them to look at this and go, we're just trying to shuffle along. I mean, they can look at this schedule and say, if we do everything we're supposed to do and win every single game, we're going to be in Indianapolis. And I don't think there's any particular reason for them to be afraid of anybody. That doesn't mean they're going to win every game, and it doesn't even mean they're going to win any of their games.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have to be afraid of anybody they're going to play, and they'll get Iowa late in the year. We'll see what Iowa is then versus what they are at the moment. I think Iowa could lose this Saturday. I really do, in Minnesota. So there's a lot of things that could happen, and Nebraska has no reason to be afraid of going into this thing head on.
We're talking with Sam McKewon of the Omaha World-Herald. Yeah, you mentioned Iowa. Obviously, they get that, we'll call it gutty win against Wisconsin. That's the nice word for ugly, right? That is a game. Obviously, both of those teams are on the back end of Nebraska's schedule. I think a lot of people looked at Wisconsin early in the year as a game Nebraska likely loses. I don't necessarily look at it that way anymore. Did that game tell you a lot about, did this weekend tell you a lot about the Big Ten West in general? I know you kind of mentioned Minnesota and sort of Nebraska have their destiny in their hands there. But I mean, we're probably looking at like a 7-5, 8-4 Big Ten West champ, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, and there's a chance with Iowa where Iowa runs the table and they finish 11-1.
Sure.
I mean, that's possible. I would be surprised. But Iowa's got a shot to go 9-3 or 10-2. You know, if Iowa goes 9-3 and, you know, they lose a couple of more games, they may not win the Big Ten West. Still go 9-3.
Mm-hmm.
So that's possible for them. You know, I think there's, I don't know what the right word to say. I think Iowa is a very, very well-coached team in a lot of ways. And certainly they went up to Wisconsin and thoroughly outcoached Wisconsin. And to Luke Fickell's credit, I posted that. He must have been listening to me. I'm kidding. He said it like 4 times in the press conference.
No, I think he subscribed to your articles.
I'm telling you, it's just I think he was playing regret live in his head as his post-game press conference was going on, because, you know, at one point he said, you know, maybe we underestimated how good their defense was, or, you know, we threw the ball 8 times in a row, and you don't want to do that. They threw the ball 50 times against Iowa, 30 times with a backup. You don't do those things against Iowa in that kind of weather and wind. You know, Washington could do that, I think, and win a game, but I don't know what Wisconsin was thinking. They weren't. You know, I just don't think they were dialed in the way that they should have been, and it reflected in the way that they played the game. They should have won that game by 10 points, and they just, you know, Iowa knows what they are, and they know how to, you know, and Papa Ferenc went over there and I think told his son, run the ball, at one point in the fourth quarter there. And that, I think that got it done. His son can get away from that at times because he's just trying to gain yards. And so Iowa managed the game really well, and I thought they played really well, coached really well. The way you beat Iowa is you've got to run the football, and then you've got to hit a couple of deep shots. That's just how you do it. And Wisconsin was not able to do either thing. So we'll see what Wisconsin is going forward. That's a tough team to beat up there. I don't care where you play them and when you play them. It's a tough team to beat up there, especially in November. Iowa's Iowa. You've got to find a way to get turnovers off of that quarterback, and they're going to protect him really well. But you've got to find a way to make him throw into a window and get a couple of interceptions. I think Purdue's got one good game left in it, and I don't know, maybe that'll come against Nebraska. Just like I thought Illinois had a good game in it, and it came against Maryland. You just don't know when that game's going to come, and I think Purdue's got the pieces to beat somebody pretty good, including Nebraska. I just don't know when they're going to play that game and who it's going to come against. And then Northwestern's a wild card. Hard to know what they're going to do this week. Hard team to read. I think they play hard. That's good. And then Maryland is what you're hoping with Maryland when you play Maryland is that you're gonna get a team that's beat up and worn down, so you can run the ball at them. And then Michigan State actually is very similar to Nebraska. You watch them play, and you're like, there's a lot of components here that seem comparable, but they are where Nebraska was last year. Their uncertainty. There's a lot of things going on. They don't know who their head coach is going to be. And I think once they play Michigan this week and then they play another game, I think they're going to be pretty beat up too. So I think Nebraska's schedule is more than manageable, more manageable than it will be next year for sure.
Sam, is there any part of you that's like, let's get Nebraska to 7-5, but maybe we let Iowa go take the beating in Indianapolis? Because I'll be honest, maybe that's a loser mentality, but I'll be honest, I've sat here a couple times thinking, Nebraska could go to Indianapolis. Is that really what we want to see, though, against a Michigan, an Ohio State, or a Penn State? I mean, has that thought process gone through your head at all?
No, it hasn't, but I understand what you're saying. For Nebraska to make it to the Big Ten championship, which, if they won the West, they do that, they'd have at least 8 wins and maybe 9. And you're putting yourself in tremendous position for a Big Ten bowl game. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where you want to be.
Fair.
Not that there'd be anything wrong with any bowl game, right? They'll go play in the guaranteed rate game at midnight in Phoenix if they have to.
Sure.
Especially if that's a Big 12 team. That'd be great to see Nebraska play in Iowa State or something like that. But what I'll say is that, if they have a chance to go to a New Year's Day game or something like that, of course you want that. I think if I was going to handicap it, I don't think Nebraska's going to be in that position. I think somewhere along the way they're going to lose a game they shouldn't. People maybe don't think they should. Don't think that'll happen this weekend. Although I wouldn't put this game in the automatic win column. I think they'll be around 6 wins, and they'll get that quick lane or that guaranteed rate bowl game. But a bowl game's a bowl game. They won't get any of them out of the house.
And being in that national view, that national eye can only do or work wonders for your program. We're talking with Sam McKewon. Sam, coaches were out and about this weekend, actively revisiting with recruits during the bye week. And one possible concern coming out of Ainsworth, Carter Nelson back from a trip to Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman has shown that he's been able to swoop in and get big names out of Nebraska before. So do you think his visit should be looked at as a big issue, or are you comfortable saying he wants to stay and play for his home state team?
Evan Bland, our writer, talked to Carter's dad, and we'll have an update here shortly this morning about the visit.
That's what we call a tease.
Yeah. So people can go to our website at omaha.com and check that out. I mean, I think what the update will say is that, he's still locked in Nebraska, and he'll be at Nebraska's game on Saturday. Matt Rhule was up there on Friday night, I guess signing autographs. There's, obviously I think Matt Rhule was using a plane or something. So obviously Nebraska would love to keep him in the fold. And I, they'll put all the effort that they have to in order to do that. I understand wanting to go and take a visit and see something. Yeah, totally understand that. I think there's, Nelson is certainly capable of making his own decision and needs to make that mind up. Notre Dame's quarterback is right now isn't going to be their quarterback next year. He's gone after this year. So I don't know who Notre Dame's quarterback is. I'm not sure Notre Dame knows who Notre Dame's quarterback is. So on the flip side of the coin, I think I don't know if Heinrich Haarberg is going to be, all Big Ten guy, but I think everybody can look around and say, well, Heinrich's here, and he's here. So this is a guy you're going to be working with. Look at the way he throws to Fedoni and all that other stuff. So I think Nebraska's got an advantage there. Obviously, Notre Dame is Notre Dame, but man, the other thing I'll say is that the way that the Big Ten is going to start setting up here really soon, you're going to play all the football teams you want to play. And so I think one of the things you can say to a guy like this is, next year you're going to play in the big house. I'm sorry, not in the big house, in the horseshoe, and you're going to play at USC. Now Notre Dame's going to get a play at one, but they're not going to play at both, and they're not going to play the schedule you're going to play. And so anybody who wants to go to the NFL better well just come through the Big Ten and face this schedule, because that's going to prepare you for the next level. So I think Nebraska will be able to leverage the Big Ten as a way of saying this is the best of the best. Notre Dame's going to play a lot of teams in the ACC. It's not going to be what Nebraska is.
Sam, I'm curious. I know you're kind of talking about some of the teams that are coming into the league next year. You mentioned the West Coast 4, and how you think some of them are maybe a little more Maryland than they are Michigan at this point in terms of the way they're set up. I was curious how you processed that Washington-Oregon game, which I thought was one of the better games just from an entertainment standpoint of the year we've seen so far. But obviously you got the undertones of both of those. I mean, both those quarterbacks are going to be gone, but both of those teams will be in the Big Ten next year. Just how did you look at that kind of with that as one of the kind of background stories?
Thought it was a great game. Felt like Oregon maybe is a little bit more athletic and physical. And, if their coach trusts that his team's a better team, which I don't know that he did, I think Oregon wins the game by 6 or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think at the end of the day, the coach needs to not play from like he's playing from behind. And it felt like that. It felt like it was Washington was a 14-point favorite instead of a 3-point favorite. I don't know. I just felt like Dan Lanning, we're going to play aggressive, and I get it. That's the whole Oregon mantra since Chip Kelly was there. But there's just a lot of times when you don't have to play up the underdog. And I think they kind of did a little bit, and it cost them, at the end when they should have taken the field goal before halftime. They should have probably taken the field goal in the second half. Probably should have trusted their defense more than, hey, we're going to go get 5 yards here and win the game. But that happened. I think Washington is really well positioned to be to potentially play in the college football playoff. They've got a great quarterback. They can throw the ball all over the place. I think defensively they're a little deficient, and I think they're going to run into Oregon State, and I think it's going to be tough. Or maybe they don't play Oregon State. I don't know. They may not play them in the regular season. There's really 3 teams in that league, and we don't talk about the other one as much because, they're not coming here and they don't maybe have the profile that there's 4 teams in that league. They do play Oregon State on November 18th at Oregon State. So, we talk about that league a lot. We probably don't mention Oregon State as much as we should, but they're really good. They're a really, really good team. And so they beat UCLA pretty handily. They lose at Washington State, hard place to play.
That's a pretty good team at Washington State, though, too.
They're pretty good. It's a great league. It's ironic that in their final year, they're the best league, and they are. And
they were bad for so long, or subpar for so long, right?
Yeah, it's hard to wrap people's minds around too. I understand why Georgia's still number one. That Georgia hasn't lost in a really long time. Mm-hmm. Georgia does not look like the best team in the country this year. Now, they may turn out to be the best team in the country because the schedule that Georgia faces and the way that the playoff is structured, Georgia will get 20-some days off before they have to play a playoff game. And Georgia in a playoff game is really tough to beat because they can out-physical their opponents, and so they'll be fresh. But, I hope the Pac-12 has a team there. I think they will have earned that. Whether or not that team is able to pull off an upset in the league's final year, I don't know. But I think Washington and Oregon, that was a great game. I don't think Washington's going to be the same team next year when they come in here. I think over time they're going to have to figure out how to run the ball. I think it's going to be very hard to throw it 55 times a game and win. But Kalen DeBoer, I think, knows that, and I think they'll make that adjustment. Oregon, I think, is Big Ten ready. I think they'll come in and
they run the ball really well.
Oh yeah, they're a good team.
They're good up front too. Yeah,
they're very good, and yeah, I'm sure that coach who I like, he's going to kick himself. There was a couple, I think, games this weekend where coaching was just, I don't really know what was going on. And certainly in the Wisconsin game, and I appreciate it. And Pickle's I think he's a stand-up guy. He was pretty honest in post game about. But that was another game where you're just like, man, like what was Wisconsin doing? It helps you appreciate who Kirk Ferentz is, because again, you can laugh at them all you want, but man, they know how to win games, and they're really good at it. They rely on that punter. Why didn't Wisconsin go after the punter? I don't know. They were setting up returns all day long. Didn't make a lot of sense. Go after the punter. Don't let him kick the ball 65 yards. Let him kick it 43. And you get your so Iowa's Gunners get down there, but he's not kicking at 65 yards. But they let him do it. And it's like, I don't know what you're thinking there. Like, that's the best punter in the country. He's going to be, an all-pro. What are you doing? Letting him stand back there and just bomb it, which he did like 4 or 5 times. There's just a lot of different things. I just, Wisconsin will regroup, and they'll have a different plan, and they'll do something different. I think they could lose this week at Illinois. I mean, you talking to me about coaching advantage. I think Illinois has got very good coaches, and I think it's personal for Brett Bielema, and he is going to try to beat the brakes off of Wisconsin this Saturday.
Sam McKewon, Omaha World-Herald. Sam, we appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Sam.
Take care.
That segment was brought to you on the Warhorse Sportsbook hotlines. Later on, we'll get to the Warhorse Sportsbook sports cleanup as well. Get to a bunch of stuff. It's been a busy weekend.
Rush up.
Even without a Nebraska game. So we'll have plenty to catch up on there as well. More at Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back. Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, Twitter, YouTube, all the places. That's Andrew Rogers.
Yo.
I'm Ravi Lulla. That was Florida State, Keon Coleman.
Where does that catch rank? And not that one that we heard.
The crazy one-handed one over the middle.
Where does that catch rank all time in catches that you've seen or watched or witnessed?
It's pretty high. Because originally I thought he kind of corralled it with one hand and then brought it into the other, and that's not what happened. He caught it with one hand and then just brought it down, which was kind of crazy.
You know why he was able to do that?
Why is that?
Because he's also a basketball player.
Yeah.
And
it was like a rebound.
Not only that, no, it reminded me of a Hail Mary pass in basketball.
Oh,
because
okay.
a lot of times you don't see guys go up with 2 hands on a ball that high.
Yes, yeah.
You go up with just one hand and you bring it down to your hip like he would take a basketball down.
Right, yeah.
Right? And that's why I really think he's able to make that catch.
Yeah.
The way his body, the way he got off the ground, the way he caught the ball, further, I'm going to try
kind of behind his body a little bit.
On like the basketball court, like closer to the hoop, bring it down to your hip, and then go up for a layup.
It's almost like a poorly thrown alley-oop that you kind of catch behind your head.
Correct. And you just bring it down.
Yeah.
And I think he's just done that so many times over and over in his just
athletic career, 20 years, whatever.
athletic career. And poof, you get a play like that because it's just instinctive.
Yeah.
It looks great. It was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
But the first thing I thought of was if he wasn't a multi-sport athlete,
Yeah.
if he wasn't a basketball player, I don't know if that catch is made.
Yeah, I mean, you're preaching to the choir here on the multi-sport athlete thing. That's something that I believe in like super strongly, because I think overall it does make you better, right? It makes you better at whatever you end up doing. You end up being better at it when you have like multiple movement patterns that you're used to, because it makes you more athletic. I am a
why do a lot of
super firm believer.
Offensive linemen in football
they wrestle or they a lot of them do even even a lot of those guys play basketball because it's
Mhm.
really good for your
Mhm.
footwork. It's really good for your body
Technique.
movement and things like that. And a lot of defensive linemen end up wrestling. A lot of those guys, whether it's something that even directly correlates to your sport or not, even those guys that, football players that play baseball, it's good for your hand-eye coordination. It's good
Football players that play soccer or baseball players that play soccer.
Yeah.
People don't really think about this too much, but speed of the game,
Mhm.
they mirror each other
Mhm.
when you play those sports because you're not always in on the action. You're kind of
Yeah.
always moving, but it's like every pitch, you're always moving in
and there's
baseball.
like a focus thing, right? Because
Mhm.
you have to be able to focus the entire time, even when you're not necessarily directly engaged in the action. And you have to be able to kind of spurt and pick your spots and things like that. The value of being a multi-sport athlete, even if you don't have direct crossover, I just think it's really good for athletic movements to have lots of different variety, right? It's better for
It's just
overall
things
health.
on your tool belt.
Yeah, and I think it reduces injuries because a lot of injuries are overuse or repetitive motion injuries. Whereas if you don't have your body doing different things, you're way more likely to kind of run into that sooner
Mhm.
in your athletic career.
Unless you have ankles like me, then the injuries are just long term
They're
throughout
just
each sport.
inevitable. No, I know I've got little literal anchors in my ankle from rolling it so many times. It's brutal, right? But there's a lot of those guys, I think they just end up healthier long term, and I think they just end up better at their sport because they played other sports for a long time. These guys that specialize super early and then never kind of focus on anything else. I mean, obviously you have success stories like that, but I would much rather bet on a guy that was a multi-sport athlete that
Mhm.
you can specialize late, even if it's just a thing from not getting burned out. You see these tennis players that they do only tennis from age 4. And then by the time they get to the pros, they're 19, 20 years old and they kind of hate the game at that point because it's all they've been doing for 15 years. And that's all they know in their entire life. Where if you've got some variety and you specialize late, then by the time that's the only thing you do, you haven't already burned yourself out mentally on it.
Multi-sport athletes.
Mhm.
So I'm talking to Avery Howard at the hockey game.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we got on this topic, but she had told me that she grew up doing Taekwondo.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And then I made the joke of
Martial arts are great for athletes.
I know.
by the
I
way.
made the joke later on. I'm like, oh, who needs a gun or a bat? Whenever you marry that man of your dreams, because you're just going to be the weapon that he sends
Right.
downstairs. Avery, black belt, get downstairs. And then she told me she also danced growing up.
Oh,
and,
sure. Yeah.
And I bring that up because Ken goes dancing and martial arts for feet and flexibility.
Absolutely.
Those are two crazy
And body
sports.
control, just overall body control.
But I responded back to Avery in that same conversation of gymnastics,
Mhm.
gymnastic. And
Yep.
she's like, I was a gymnast too. I'm like, of course you were.
Of course. Yeah.
That's why you're a D1 athlete.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But I, to this day, will always proclaim that I think the best possible, the best athletes in the world are gymnasts.
Probably fair.
And the reason for that is from a strength point of view and from just a skill point of view. I just think it's Simone Biles may be the best athlete in the United States.
Yeah,
and I
sure.
just think it's because gymnastics offers a different set of strength and skill sets that not everybody can do.
And it depends on how you define athleticism, right? But I kind of define athleticism as body control, at its base core, right? We think a lot of times it's, hey, you run this fast or you jump this high or whatever. But that a lot of times is just a reflection of somebody's elite ability to control their body, right? And gymnasts, that's literally
and
their
you
entire
have to be
job.
perfect.
Yes.
You make one inch of your body leans the wrong way and you fall off the beam, it's over.
Right.
So it's all about precision.
Precise body control, right? And so, yeah, I mean, and you wouldn't think that gymnastics would have a big carryover to with Avery. She was a Division I soccer player, right? You wouldn't necessarily think oh, gymnastics, soccer, that doesn't make a ton of sense. Maybe you see it with dance and footwork and things like that.
Have you ever tried controlling a soccer ball? It's not easy.
No, it's not easy at all. But if you have elite control of your body like gymnasts do, then being able to control the ball as kind of an extension of your body becomes that much easier. So just on the multi-sport athlete thing, I am a huge proponent of that, especially through high school, right? At least through high school, play multiple sports, because coaches aren't oblivious to that. Coaches that are recruiting you understand that, hey, if you played multiple sports, I genuinely believe your upside is higher than somebody who is, you see this a lot of times with the like quarterback recruiting, right? Where those guys hyper focus on like the 7-on-7 and they hyper focus on getting a QB coach and things like that. It's like, yeah, they might get a Division I offer in 8th grade, but how much better is that kid actually getting, right? Versus the guy that was playing basketball and football and baseball, and maybe he didn't spend every waking hour working on his mechanics, but then you look at him and say, hey, that's a great athlete, and he's already pretty good at the position. How much better can that guy get with some proper training and teaching there? So, no, I'm definitely on that page, and I wish more youth coaches focused more on that. And because, man, some of the youth coaches, and this is probably one of my biggest pet peeves with the youth sports environment in this country, is they get so territorial over their athletes and their time in their sport that they really don't even make it possible. If you want to play something at a high level, they really don't even make it possible to play another sport because they will monopolize all of your time. And then you get into this cycle of, okay, well, if I don't play at a high level in this sport, then I'm not going to get recruited and I'm not going to get noticed and X, Y, and Z, right? If I don't play the game. And it's really detrimental to the kids in their development because you're putting them in kind of a no-win position to not really get their skills the way you want them. And you're putting them in a spot where, hey, I'm not going to give you the opportunity where at these showcases or whatever where coaches are going to see you. It's super frustrating because it's not good for anyone involved. And it's just these youth coaches that want to win these kind of meaningless tournaments. And listen, I'm not saying you should not try and win, but to do it at the expense of a kid's development and overall athleticism and career, like that's the stuff that drives me crazy.
Jacob on YouTube, hockey and baseball have way more in common than soccer. I mean, every sport has something in common with one another.
Yeah.
What I said was that soccer and baseball are a speed of the game thing. Like that was the only point I made between those two.
Like hockey and baseball, obviously there's going to be a hand-eye coordination thing there. That's a more direct correlator, but I definitely understood what you meant with soccer because again, those are games where the pacing is a little bit different than most other sports. And the pacing in hockey is way different than it's really closer to basketball, right? Because you're up 100%. And down all the time. You're moving.
There's like a lot of things that don't even compare to hockey because you move on the fly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the other thing he says is stop with the Biles thing. She isn't even the best athlete in women's college sports. Well, for one, she's an Olympian.
In college. Yeah,
she's an Olympian.
Not in college.
And two, she is going to go down as one of the best gymnasts in history. And she's
going to go down as probably one of the best athletes in American history. And I don't think that's an exaggeration.
All time, no doubt.
Also not an exaggeration. If you've got a personal injury accident, you need to call our friends at Dyer Law. That's 402-393-7529 or go to dyerlaw.com, DYER.law. They have you covered no matter what you need. And we've got you covered. Wrapping up hour number 2 next on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I want to tell you about our friends at The Beanery. They've got 4 locations, Gretna, Papillion, Ashland, and 168th and Giles is their newest one. They roast their own coffee, locally owned and operated. You can get hot, iced, frozen drinks, and they've got some food items for you there as well. The Beanery serving people coffee. Joining us now from the sporting news, talk about the NFL, is Vinnie Iyer. Vinny, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, guys.
Vinny, good to hear from you, man. NFL this weekend was weird. As I told Ravi, it felt like I can't remember if it was week 2 or week 3 where injuries kind of just overshadowed gameplay. Did you happen to think the same, or is this just kind of, the NFL season this year in 2023?
Well, I think it's the midseason is always about survival mode. You're going to have attrition, and you're going to pile up guys that played a lot of games. You're going to get better understanding of identities of teams, and what you're having now is the rash of backup quarterbacks, right? You had a couple more go down. Tannehill, Jimmy Garoppolo, Justin Fields. I mean, this would happen last year when we had a record number of quarterbacks starting games. And this is why teams have been drafting depth like crazy. You have not just one option, 2, 3 guys that they can pick up off the waiver wire with Deshaun Watson already out. So it just adds to the pile of these quarterbacks not playing. It started with Aaron Rodgers, and that's continued. Now you have Christian McCaffrey and Justin Jefferson who play fantasy. Those are the top 2 picks. It looks like they're going to miss some time as well for the near future. So it's been rough out there. So it's just about survival in the middle of the season. And sometimes this is where it pays off if the team practices hard and stays ahead of things. And this is why probably the Chiefs are not in a good position because, look, their injury report is pretty thin at this point. And I think part of it is because they practice hard and maybe they don't do this side training that sometimes can hurt you with a hamstring or something like that. But I think it's paid off to be at that level. So some teams approach differently. The Rams take it easy with their players, but we know it can go either way with injuries. So I think you just have to commit to something and know your team. And unfortunately, this is just going to pile up no matter what you do because the game is so physical, and we know as you create mileage throughout the season, it's only going to get harder to stay healthy.
Hey, Vinny, I think we've got a bad connection on our end. We're going to try and reconnect with you here in just a second. Shane, if you want to try and dial Vinny back.
Hang with us, Vinny, please.
So, yeah, it was hard to hear him there, but he was kind of talking about some of the major injuries. Obviously, he mentioned Justin Fields, Ryan Tannehill, obviously a lot of the backup quarterback situation. He mentioned how there was a record number of quarterbacks last year that ended up playing, and we might be on pace for that again. I don't know if it's a it's kind of weird because they've tried to protect the quarterbacks more than ever, and yet we're seeing them injured seemingly more than ever as well. I'm not really sure what the reasoning behind that is, but
we've got a better connection.
Hey, Vinny, you there now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
beautiful.
That's much better. So, Vinny, you were talking about how we'd kind of seen a record number of quarterbacks last year play, and it looks like we might be kind of in for the same thing this year. Do you find that odd at all? Because it seems like the NFL has sort of gone out of their way with the way the rules have been structured and things like that to kind of protect the quarterbacks. Why do you think it is that we're still seeing so many quarterback injuries?
Well, I think you're having a lot of dropbacks, right? I mean, teams are passing like crazy, so the more you drop back, the more chances of getting hurt, the more also quarterbacks are running and scrambling and getting out there. So there's different ways that these guys get hurt. So the more you pass, you're putting yourself in harm's way from the pass rush and teams getting after it. And then some of these guys have to scramble to stay alive and do that. And a lot of these injuries don't happen from those runs. They just happen from just the wear and tear of taking those hits. If anyone saw the quarterback documentary on Netflix with Kirk Cousins and Patrick Mahomes, there's just one episode dedicated to how much these guys get crunched week in and week out and how much it takes just to get on the field the next week, even if you're completely healthy. So it's part of the way the game is. It's fast, furious, and that's what you're seeing. And look, the attrition, you just have to survive it. And it's getting harder. This is why you have now the emergency quarterback can be somewhat available. That's why you have teams drafting 15 quarterbacks over the rounds because they're just making sure that they have someone to start. And then you see pivots, right? I mean, you didn't have Arizona have a good solution, so they went out and got Josh Dobbs, and then you had the switch from Dorian Thompson-Robinson to P.J. Walker. So these things are going to happen quick, and you just want somebody out there that's capable. And if you have like an Andy Dalton or someone like that, you're in good shape.
Vinny, switching gears here from quarterbacks to some of the other injuries we saw on Sunday. I'm a big 49ers fan, so the Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel ones are particularly close to me. How worried are you long-term about those injuries and how they affect the outcome of the 49ers season?
Well, I think McCaffrey, I think we have to be a little bit worried because of some of the reports we're hearing, oblique and a rib injury. So just have to track to see what's going on with him. Of course, the biggest thing for them is just having him healthy in the playoffs. I think they'll be fine running the ball with Jordan Mason and Elijah Mitchell if they need to do that, but they missed that element of the pass game, especially if Debo's not there. So they need these other guys to step up. We know George Kittle can do it. We know Brandon Ayuk can do it, but Juwan Jennings, maybe these other younger players need to step up and be factors. Maybe they have to use Kyle Juszczyk more. So for them, the only thing is to get to the end with everyone healthy. And the one thing they didn't have healthy, and we'll never know the outcome of that game if they had a quarterback, and Brock Purdy was in that game against the Eagles. That's their only goal, right? To get to that championship game and have everyone healthy as possible. And look, there's not a lot of competition here, right? I mean, it's the Eagles. Eagles are not without their problems. They just lost to the Jets themselves on the road. They're losing a lot of personnel. Their pass defense is not as good as last year. So there's things that they're sorting out too. Then you got the Lions who are looking good, but they're still new to winning at this level. So they're not in that conversation yet. I mean, this is going to be a first-time playoff team with Dan Campbell. If they get there, they're the third-best team. So if you know that, you just have to look at the big picture of the season. It's not going to please maybe fantasy managers that the 49ers are probably going to err on the side of caution with all these guys, but I was a little worried. I think they were giving McCaffrey a little bit too high of a volume, partly because Elijah Mitchell wasn't available. But now I think they have Jordan Mason, who's looking very good, so I think they'll be okay riding him for a while, and maybe he'll see an expanded role in the passing game as well.
Vinny, I saw this report come through yesterday, and it involved discussion on potentially having a Super Bowl in London at some point in time. And, I get it, from playing regular season games in the British capital is one thing, but playing a Super Bowl seems like a slap in the face to cities and fans here in the U.S., being America's biggest sporting event. So discussions are one thing, because a lot of times things just don't get done. But could you ever see a day that something like that actually happens?
I mean, I'm a little concerned about it because you actually look, if your dream trip is the Super Bowl, it's already really expensive. If you're a fan of that team and that's it. I mean, if you want to move the game to someplace even more expensive, harder to get to, and not very accessible to a lot of those fans that may have like a lifetime dream to see their team play in that game, that's not doing them a service at all. Like, I get it. They could say, okay, well, I guess London is a lifetime dream for us in my map, but you don't want to go spend all that money to go to London just to see a game. Like, you probably want to have a side trip to do that. You probably want the Super Bowl in another spot. So I think it's a little crazy. I don't mind Las Vegas at all. I mean, it's a place where a team plays. I think that's going to be a great destination for the Super Bowl with all the gambling events surrounding it and the way the gambling has been more open now in the league. It makes sense to have a Super Bowl there, but moving it out of the country is just a little bit too much of a stretch for me, where, look, we don't have the Premier League championship being played in New York. That doesn't happen. So we don't need to do it the other way.
Vinny, out of some of the teams that have gotten off to slow starts, I'm thinking about teams like the Bengals who seem to finally be getting back on track. Is there anyone that you still kind of are a believer in terms of maybe long-term making a deep run into playoffs?
Yeah, it's an interesting landscape here right now because the Steelers are a team, I think you look up, you can't believe they're 3-2. Some people might not believe the Raiders are 3-3, but some of the things that are going on, I mean, the defensive teams, I think you have to look at the Browns, Steelers, or Raiders. I think one of these teams can make some noise. I'm really impressed the way that Jaguars are playing all around, and Trevor Lawrence has not even played at a super high level or got the help that he needs from the receivers, but they're playing great defense. They got one game. They have a big signature win against the Bills. So I think you look at the Dolphins, they can be slowed down by better defenses. So something to look at this week. It's a great game. Dolphins-Eagles on Sunday night, finally a great Sunday night game. We look forward to it, a lot of scoring. So I'm excited to see how those two teams match up. But I would say right now there's a lot of teams trying to figure out themselves in the AFC. I think the Steelers, I just don't sleep on that because Mike Tomlin always seems to figure it out. They learn how to win. They get better as it goes on. I think you'll see a much better Kenny Pickett coming out of the bye. So that's kind of a sneaky team. I also would not totally dismiss the Chargers. I think this is a big opportunity tonight against the Cowboys if they can make a statement. Justin Herbert and this offense, and Brandon Staley's starting to figure out a few things defensively with Khalil Mack. So I think it's going to be fun here down the stretch. Right now it seems pretty compressed where you look at Chiefs, Dolphins, Eagles, 49ers, but I think a lot of teams could be in the mix.
Vinny, we got about 15 seconds here. A quick one. Could you see a scenario in which Bill Belichick gets fired midseason?
Not fired, but I think he'll retire potentially after the season, unless they get the number one pick. That's a different story.
Vinnie Iyer from Sporting News. Vinny, we appreciate your time. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, bye.
Thanks, Vinny.
Coming up next, we will talk to Ricky O'Donnell from SB Nation, get a little basketball fix as the season is right around the corner here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Kicking off our final hour here on Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR for this third hour in Lincoln. We're brought to you by our friends at Alumni Hall, which is your ultimate Husker shopping experience. The best and largest selection of apparel for the whole family, whatever you need. And of course, they've got their Hall Pass rewards so you can earn cash back as well. 2 Lincoln locations, P Street downtown or in South Point Pavilion, or anytime at alumnihall.com. Alumni Hall, where Husker fans shop. And where NBA fans go for some information is our friend Ricky O'Donnell of SB Nation. Ricky, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
We are doing good. So we're about a week out from the start of the NBA season. How are you feeling? You getting excited?
Yes, I think this is shaping up to be a great year. I personally feel like the NBA is at its best when there are elite teams, ready to go into the season. I think we've seen that with some of the recent moves. Damian Lillard going to the Milwaukee Bucks, Holiday being rerouted to the Boston Celtics. I think, in the East, the Bucks and the Celtics start the year as the clear class of the conference. In the West, you got the Nuggets and the Suns as the two teams to beat. So I think just having, 4 elite squads heading into the year, having a bunch of really good teams below them trying to, pull off an upset heading into the year to, break into the conference finals. It's going to be a fun storyline to watch. What team is going to emerge as a challenger to those 4? Will those 4 teams, live up to the hype this year? So I think we're set up for another really fun season, and I can't wait for it to get underway.
Ricky, I'm curious. Could I make the argument that the Jrue Holiday acquisition by the Celtics has just as much impact on a potential NBA title as the Damian Lillard acquisition by the Bucks?
Yeah, I think if you're the Bucks, seeing Holiday end up in Boston is just sort of the nightmare scenario. Like, there's no doubt the Bucks
had no intention of that happening.
Yeah, I think that the Bucks just needed to get better themselves. And if you've watched the Bucks in the playoffs the last few years, the half-court offense has just been such an issue deep in the season. Damian Lillard solves all those problems immediately with his pull-up shooting, with his pick-and-roll playmaking. Him and Giannis should have the best two-man game in the NBA. But to lose a defensive piece like Holiday was always going to be tough. And to see him go to your arch rival inside the conference in Boston is just a really tough blow, I think, for the Bucks. Holiday has had one excellent playoff series against Damian Lillard in the past. He's the type of sort of big physical guard who can give Lillard some issues. It's going to be fascinating theater, I think, just from like the perspective of a fan to watch Holiday get traded from Milwaukee and then go to Boston, and those two teams are probably going to be playing for a spot in the NBA Finals this year. I think that, Holiday is in a wonderful spot in Boston right now. He isn't going to really be counted on to provide too much offense or on-ball creation. Instead, he slots in very nicely as a connective piece between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. He can really help fortify that defense. And, man, if you're Boston, you can throw Jrue Holiday at Damian Lillard. You could throw Derek White at Damian Lillard. You could throw more size at him with Tatum. So I think they have a lot of weapons for Lillard. Now, how many do they have for Giannis without Grant Williams, who left this offseason to go to the Dallas Mavericks? I think that'll be fascinating to watch. But, yeah, it's going to be great theater for fans, that's for sure.
How big of an upgrade, if any, is Jrue Holiday over Marcus Smart, who I know there was a lot of consternation about with certain Celtics fans about him leaving in the offseason as well? Seems like they replaced everything that Marcus Smart brought to the table and maybe a little more.
Yeah, I think Holiday's definitely a better player than Marcus Smart. They are very similar for sure. Neither is natural point guards. Both are, big, physical, rugged, defense-first guards. And while Holiday really struggled in the playoffs last season, he was incredible in the regular season. So, I think that if you're Boston, you just sort of hope that some of the bad playoff runs Holiday has had has just been an aberration, that you can put him in a better role in Boston now, and maybe you can get better performance out of him in the postseason. But I do think Holiday, he's a little better shooter than Marcus Smart, I think. I think he's a little bit better playmaker off the dribble. So in everything they lost in Smart to acquire Kristaps Porzingis, a stretch 5, a third offensive option that they really thought they needed, to be able to replace that with a similar and even better player in Jrue Holiday is just really an incredible stroke of luck for Boston that, Holiday was available this late in the offseason.
You mentioned a couple guys there, or a couple teams in the West in terms of Phoenix and Denver. Is there, I guess, how much does the needle move for you with CP3 going to the Warriors, or is that just kind of that felt a little desperate to me with what's a pretty old team now? Does that put them in the conversation at all?
I think that the Warriors made that move mostly to get off Jordan Poole's contract. I think like there's only so many players you can actually trade Jordan Poole for
Sure.
because his salary was so big. So being able to get out of that long-term contract only 1 year after he signed it, CP3 just gives him more flexibility. He's a veteran player who you sort of know what you're getting from CP3, even at his advanced age. He's not going to be able to play a ton of minutes, but he'll take care of the ball. He'll give you some pull-up shooting. He'll definitely give you some pick-and-roll playmaking. So I thought that was a pretty good move for the Warriors. I would have loved to see the Warriors trade CP3 to try to get Jrue Holiday. Package CP3 a pick, maybe Jonathan Kuminga or Moses Moody to try to get into the Holiday sweepstakes. Because for the Warriors, they're only playing for championships right now, as long as you still got Steph Curry, who remains pretty close to the top of his game. So the Warriors, to me, if you're trying to pick a third team out west, they're probably the safest bet just because we've seen them win so many championships before. Curry is still, at the elite tier. I don't know how much CP3 moves the needle, but man, Jordan Poole took a lot off the floor last year. He was a brutal defensive player. His shot selection was very questionable. So just that could be addition by subtraction. And then I think, Paul will give them some good backup point guard minutes. It seems like he's going to start, which to me is a mistake. I think Chris Paul should be coming off the bench for this Golden State team, but Steve Kerr will eventually figure out the rotation by playoff time, have everyone in the right spots. And yeah, I expect Golden State to be very good this year once again.
Ricky, something I always think about is how special the next decade or two will be as we watch the old greats get filtered out and the new become faces of the league. If there is comparison, who are some young names to watch that are next in line to compete with the stats of guys like Steph, KD, or LeBron? And I know that sounds outrageous to say, but can those numbers be touched, and when do you think those numbers will be touched?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're just looking at the basic counting stats, if anyone's going to be able to eclipse those guys just because they've been so great for so long.
Sure.
But there's so much exciting young talent in the league right now, and I think that, it's really the young talent currently entering the league is really going to change the way basketball is played, I think, over the next 10, 15 years. You could start with Victor Wembanyama.
Sure.
Was absolutely crazy in his first few preseason games. Measured 7'4" barefoot. He's able to handle the ball like a guard. There's never been a player this tall who's this fluid athletically. Think of like Sean Bradley, Taco Fall. These guys have been the only players as tall as Wembanyama, and there's no way they can move like him. They're also not as skilled as him. Wembanyama is a legitimate movement three-point shooter who's running off screens and like squaring himself to the basket, knocking down shots with range. He's just looked so good so far in the preseason. I do think that there'll be times when he'll struggle for sure. I think he's gonna, take some tough shots in the mid-range and really try to like flush out his one-on-one scoring ability. But at the rim, he should be so dominant, and I think Wembanyama is going to be really fun to watch. A few other names around the league who I think will be really enticing to monitor. Evan Mobley entering his third season this year with the Cleveland Cavaliers, 7-footer who can play all over the floor on both ends of the floor. Chet Holmgren, another one of those guys, 7 foot, who can shoot threes, who can put a lid on the rim, who dunks everything inside. Just having a chess piece like Mobley, Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren, I think is really going to unlock multiple layers of how you can play the game, given the versatility of a big man like that. It's going to be so much fun to watch those guys come into their own. I'm excited for Paolo Banchero in his second season. He was really good with the Magic as a rookie, huge 6'10", 250-pound forward with just a really diverse offensive skill set. And you got to be excited for Scoot Henderson, too, who's also looked awesome, is the number 3 overall pick for the Blazers this offseason. He's taking over for Damian Lillard. He's going to be the face of the franchise now in Portland. No pressure, kid, for a young point guard to follow that's Lillard. But, Scoot's a different player. He doesn't have the shooting that Lillard has. But he's a much bigger, stronger guard and more explosive going to the basket. Perhaps I think that'll be another really fun player to watch too.
Ricky, another one of those players that not that long ago was probably in that conversation was Zion Williamson, who's battled injuries and being in shape and all of these things. Where are you at with Zion and his ability to reach his, what I still think is a prodigious ceiling, although the chances of him becoming that guy seem to be waning year by year. How are you processing this? We're in that time of year where Zion's in the greatest shape of his life again. How are you kind of expecting his career to progress?
Yeah, well, the thing with Zion's still only 23 years old.
Yeah.
But he just hasn't played any basketball lately. I mean,
not a lot, no.
He played one season where he played a reasonable amount of games. It was the 2021 season. I believe he played 62 of the 71 games or something that year.
Mm-hmm.
In that season, when he was 21, I believe, or 20, he was electric. He was
phenomenal.
An all-NBA level performer. Since then, he's missed a full season. Last year, the Pelicans with Zion on the floor were in first place in the West, 20 games into the year, then Zion doesn't play again and the Pelicans fall apart. So I think that Zion honestly has MVP potential if he's fully healthy. I think that there are still some holes in his game. He's not really a complete player, but nobody is better at scoring at the rim. The guy is just an absolute tank at getting into the paint and finishing in the paint. And he's just a really, really talented interior scorer if he can play. So it's tough for me to sit here and say, I think, Zion's actually going to be able to stay healthy this year because we just haven't seen that.
Sure.
Hopefully his body can, withstand the punishment you have to go through in the NBA, but he's got to prove that. So I think if Zion plays, the Pelicans should be in a very good team and Zion should put up some absolutely incredible numbers, but we have to see it. And at this point, we haven't. I'm hoping this is the year Zion stays healthy and really makes his superstar leap, but we'll see.
Ricky, I'm curious about another guy that maybe a little bit of the shine's come off on, although not because of his availability, and that's Luka Doncic, who I think some people still, I think a lot of people still think he has MVP potential, but the way his seasons have gone have not been super impressive in terms of the amount of winning that's been done. How do you feel about kind of the pieces that Dallas has put around Luka this year? It seems like they've sort of struggled to figure out what's the best team to build around him.
Yeah, they've had trouble building around him dating back to their trade for Kristaps Porzingis, right? Like that was their first all-in move to try to get him a co-star. That didn't work out. You had Jalen Brunson as a guy you developed. They didn't want to pay him. He used to go to the Knicks, had an incredible year. Now you got Kyrie Irving in there. The Mavericks are interesting. Like Luka's basically as good as any player in the league, or close to it. And I think that, he should be set up for another fantastic season. I like the on-court fit with Kyrie, but again, similar to Zion, but for totally different reasons. Kyrie's general availability every year always seems to be under question. I think they definitely need a really good year from Kyrie. And then who's the Mavericks' third best player? Even I guess it's Grant Williams, who's basically out of the rotation.
I guess, yeah.
Year. You still got Dwight Powell there at center. They added a couple rookies who I think could be decent long term, but how much are rookies going to be able to contribute early in their careers? Yeah, the Mavericks, to me, they're going to be a solid team. They obviously have an elite player in Luka, but what are they doing to set Luka up for championships, both in the near term and in the long term? If I'm Luka, I'm sort of looking around here do I trust the Mavericks to build around me to get me a championship, or do I need to eventually go somewhere else? So Luka's fantastic. There's no doubt about it. Is he a perfect player? No. He's not great off the ball. He's not always in fantastic shape. His defense can wane, but with the ball in his hands, Luka's absolutely a magician. So I think the Mavericks will have a chance as long as they have Luka Doncic, but it's sort of tough to look at them this year given that, after Kyrie, they don't have a ton of talent around Luka, and think that the Mavericks are going to compete deep in the playoffs again.
Ricky, last thing from me. Who's a team on the rise this season? One that maybe missed playoff contention last season, but is also one you like to take that next step?
Yeah, it's got to be the Thunder. I love the Thunder this year. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a top 10 player in the league. If anyone watched the FIBA World Cup, he was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Canada is a 6'5", 6'6" point guard who can just get wherever he wants on the floor. So I think, he's a lead engine, the type of lead engine you need to make a deep playoff run. And I'm very excited for Chet Holmgren coming in this year. 7-footer who just has a really diverse skill set. I think he's going to be an awesome shot blocker for them. I think that he's going to be able to stretch the floor as a three-point shooter. He'll be able to handle the ball a little bit too, which will give him another dimension. So You look around, what else is there in OKC? You got Jalen Williams coming off a great rookie season. You have Josh Giddey entering his third year as a big guard who's a wonderful passer. And they just have like a collection of pretty interesting young guys who they're just sort of waiting to see how the rotation shakes out. So I love the Thunder coming into this year. I think that, last year we saw an 8 seed make the an 8 seed make the NBA finals out of the East, a 7 seed make the conference finals in the West with the Lakers. Why not the Thunder? Like, why can't they go on a run to the conference finals this year? Obviously, it's a young team, and it's a lot easier to do that type of stuff when you got Jimmy Butler or LeBron James. But I think OKC is a team on the rise, and this should be the first year of their ascent.
Ricky, we'll get you out of here on this. There was a study recently put out by the NBA that load management doesn't really reduce injuries the way they had been kind of acting like it had or had previously thought it had been. Do you think that actually changes the way we see teams handle their superstars, or is this kind of more of the NBA just really trying to get people on TV more often?
Yeah, of course the NBA is going to say that load management doesn't benefit the players because, like you said, the NBA wants the players playing especially premium games that are on national television. I get it from the perspective of a fan. It stinks to have the Pelicans on TV all the time and Zion never plays, or it stinks to put the Clippers on TV and Kawhi's not out there, or Paul George isn't out there. I just don't really know how you can stop it. Like, the real problem is that the season's too long. In college basketball, what do you play? 35 games. In high school basketball, you play 35 games, And in the NBA, you play 82 before the playoffs, which are 3 months long if you keep winning. So why do they play so many more games? Well, so they can make so much more money. I think, with the television contracts, with sold-out stadiums, like, that's just the problem with player health in the league. There's people will say like, oh, well, look at the 90s. Those guys played all the time, or even, earlier than the 90s. But there's so much more space to defend now in terms of like how the game is spread out. That puts a lot more strain on players' bodies, in my opinion. It's very difficult with just, how the league is expanded, the travel, back-to-backs, the 4 games in 5 nights some of these players have to endure. So, will players play more often and stop resting? It's possible, but at the end of the day, the NBA has created a culture where it's win a ring or you're a failure. And when that's your mindset, it does sort of diminish the regular season. So I would love to see players rest less, play more. But, at the end of the day, you got to prioritize winning a championship, having your guys healthy for playoff time. So I'm not really sure how that's going to play out, but it'll be fascinating to see.
Ricky, I'm glad you brought up the 80s and 90s because that's
when he was born.
Well, I was 80s baby right here. But I'm on this crusade because people think that the NBA was so much more defensive minded and stuff like that. If you actually watch the games and not just the hard fouls, there was not a whole lot of defense being played for a lot of those games. And like you said, almost all the defense was packed inside the 3-point line. It was a much less physically demanding game on a play-in, play-out basis. And we kind of just confused that because people used to get hammered going to the hoop every once in a while. Like, am I crazy or is that real?
No, I totally agree with you. Just the fact that now, teams play so much faster. Every year it seems like, we set a new record for offensive efficiency. If you were to ask someone, who's the best offense in NBA history, I don't know, you might be thinking Michael Jordan's Bulls, Magic Johnson's Lakers, but really it was last year's Sacramento Kings in terms of offensive rating. So,
right.
The game gets faster, the teams shoot more 3-pointers. Now what we've seen is like the players are now tailoring their talent to what the teams need. These players have grown up watching, Kristaps Porzingis and Karl Towns and all these bigs who can shoot all over the floor. And now players, I think, are really young players are coming into the league with a more complete skill set in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that, just like the demands of having to navigate screens 30 feet from the basket and, just having to cover all that space against teams that are playing with so much more pace, I think is really strenuous on players' bodies. So I'm with you. I think to say that no one plays defense in the NBA now is absolutely crazy. The hard fouls should not be the thing people are coming back to. I think, the game's in a really good place right now, both for this season and long term, just in terms of the young talent coming into the league.
Ricky O'Donnell, SB Nation, we appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll catch up again later in the season.
Thanks, Ricky.
Thanks.
Great stuff there from Ricky O'Donnell. I know the old heads are going to come at me for my 80s and 90s take, but it's just true. Like, people watch highlights from the 80s and 90s in the NBA, and they see these hard fouls, or they see these, they're watching these playoff games, right? Like, yeah, the
Playoffs.
The playoffs, they're watching Celtics and Lakers from, the 80s, and it's super intense, right? But if you just watch some random regular season basketball games from the 80s and 90s, and I do that sometimes because I'm a little bit of a sicko.
I don't.
That's okay. It doesn't help anybody. There's no need for it at all. I have a problem. But I do it sometimes.
You just like to get mad.
Yeah, and you just see these wide open spaces. Guys are just standing straight up on defense. Like, the level of defense played on a play in, play out basis, on a night in, night out basis in the NBA is so much higher now than it ever has been, because, and part of it is because there's so much more money at stake. Like, that's a lot of it, right? There is so much more money at stake than there ever has been, that these guys play harder than they ever have. That's just true.
Maybe it was the gap in level of, between the best player and the worst player. The gap.
Oh, are you talking about athleticism over there, Shane?
Yeah, we have a lot of gymnasts playing in the NBA now.
I know.
No, you're saying from the top of the league to the bottom of the league, you're saying there was a bigger gap than there is now. Is that right, Shane? No, I agree with that. The league is more talented than it's ever been. The top of the league's always been really good, right? There's been super high level talented guys, but the bottom of the league is way better than it's ever been. Like, the bottom of the league, there's guys today at the bottom of the league that would have been like borderline all-stars not that long ago, and they're just barely hanging on for dear life to have an NBA career now. I don't know that people appreciate that. And listen, if you're not an NBA fan, like, that's cool. I like, that's your preference, whatever. I love basketball, and if you actually watch this stuff, it is a dramatically better product than it's ever been. Like, if you just like basketball, if you like the hard fouls, you want to see people get beat up and clothesline, and Kurt Rambis getting put on his butt during the playoffs, like, yeah, you're not going to get that anymore. Sorry, bud. Go watch hockey. Like, it's like, if that's what you want, go watch hockey, and that's great. Like, I'm not hating if that's what you want, but if you want to watch good basketball, it's better than it's ever been.
Ravi, tell me how you really feel.
Well, that's the job.
I'll go watch hockey.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'll go watch hockey from the 80s and 90s. That's fine.
Listen, hockey's great. We're all here for hockey. We're also here for our friends at Dingman's Collision Center. They have been in business for 25 years in Omaha, 18 straight years, best of Omaha, first place, family owned and operated. They've got the latest technology. They can work on anything from Fords to Teslas. They don't care if you're an NBA fan, gymnast fan, hockey fan, whatever. They've got you covered.
Decathlon fans.
And they give back to the community with every car repaired. Go check out dingmans.com for more information. Coming up next, it's time to play a game.
Let's play a game.
Shane's
World.
Our MC, Andrew Rogers, will have us covered here in just a minute. More on Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. What time is it? It's game time. Woo! Much like our 90s Bulls, we're about to play a game here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. I'm Ravi Lulla. That's Andrew Rogers.
That's me.
And Shane Schillerberg is going to be real important for this segment as well. Not that he's not important all the time, but he's going to be on air important here in just a second.
I like being important, not too much.
I'll say Shane's more of a behind the scenes guy.
Shane's all about the importance of this game, though.
Want to tell you real quick before we get into the game, remind you, hey, we're going to have our breakfast blitz back here on Friday morning at Hurrdat Sports Bar.
Come say hi.
It is a Husker home game, so we've always got our breakfast blitz on these Fridays. Andrew and I will be here. It is from 7:30 is when they start serving breakfast to 10 a.m. Come say hi. Come hang out with us, and we will hopefully put on a great show for you before the Nebraska game on Saturday.
You know it.
And, we might have more games like this for Andrew to play with us as well. All right, Andrew, set up the game for me. What do we have going on?
We're playing Shane's World.
Okay.
So this is the game.
Excellent.
We are going to have a prompt. Party on. We are going to have a prompt, and we'll know the prompt, but Shane won't know it until we say, Shane, name as many of these as you can in 10 seconds. So can you pull a 10-second timer up on your phone for me?
Yep, we'll do it on the phone.
An example would be like, I say NHL hockey teams, okay? Yep. And I say, I think Shane can get 3. You would say...
No, he can get 4.
You could even jump to 6 if you want to. You don't have to increase by 1.
Have to go in order?
Right?
Okay.
And then it's like, oh, shoot, you think 6? Can Shane get 7?
10 seconds?
If not, I say party on. Shane has to do it. Whoever loses has to spin the Bean Boozle spinner. And we're gonna find out which one.
So these
Which
jelly beans,
that they eat.
some of them
are really good. Like one is juicy pear. Its co-partner is booger.
Yeah. So
The other one is birthday cake. Dirty dishwashers.
they look
It's pear.
identical though.
Identical.
They
Yep.
have some are good, some are bad. We're hoping we don't have a Harry Potter experience with some bogey flavored
right.
jelly beans here. But that's the punishment. We both have our spit sacks here in case things get out of hand.
It's gonna get out of hand.
Get a little
too. Okay,
nauseous
we're gonna
here.
go.
Now I can do a lot of things. I could probably name off a few things here and there, like on these prompt things.
Yeah,
But
we'll see.
But if you guys get sick, I can't work for you tomorrow.
All right, this is what we're going with first here, Ravi.
Okay.
Okay, how many can Shane get in 10 seconds?
Let's go 4.
I think Shane.
Sell me short.
It's 10 seconds. It's not that long.
I think Shane can get 5.
That's a lot.
Ooh. Party on.
All right, Shane. Timer up. Are you ready, Shane?
Do it.
Shane, name as many in 10 seconds current football players.
Go.
Derek Carr, Hill, Sue, and Jacoby Myers, Josh Jacobs.
Yes!
Oh, hold on.
I said you could name 5.
Sue is not currently playing. That's
Is
4.
he not?
He's not on a
Oh,
roster.
no.
That is 4.
I heard 5 names and got excited.
That is 4. Sue is not currently on a roster. Check for me. I don't think he is.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
too late.
there you go, Shane.
We're over our 10
Sue
seconds.
is currently a free agent.
Let's go! Thank you, Shane.
Damn it.
All right, I'm spinning the wheel.
Spin the wheel for me. Let's go.
Oh my goodness, cappuccino or liver and onions.
Okay.
It's a brown one.
All right, here we go.
All right, I'm just gonna grab this guy right off the top. That's the flavor, right?
Good
Match
luck.
it up.
Yeah, I think so. Good luck and Godspeed.
Oh man.
Good Catholic boy. Got to cross himself before he takes the plunge.
Oh.
It's liver and onions. I
Yeah.
think we have liver and onions here, folks.
Well, this is a great game. I'm kind of enjoying this.
Oh, dude, that's disgusting. I'm gonna be a champ though. I'm gonna try to swallow
You
it.
gonna try and get it? You gonna try and finish it?
Dude, that's
great.
so bad.
Thank God for Ndamukong Suh not signing a contract this year.
Oh, it's even worse to swallow. Oh. Dude, it's the saliva that remains. Why don't I have a water with me?
You want some of my Diet Coke?
No.
You're
All
right.
right, yeah,
You
let's
wanna
move, let's
Oh,
move
that
on.
smelled bad.
Yeah, it's
Like,
my,
I
it's
can-
on my breath.
I can smell
Yeah,
it.
you're welcome. Dude, that was so gross. All right, 2. All right, we're gonna go with this one right here.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Let me bring that up. Let me bring up the list.
Okay, while you do that, I'm gonna go to this one right above it then. Right above it, so you can have it pulled up.
Which one?
This guy right here.
Okay.
I think Shane can name 6.
Ooh, party on. Go for it.
All right, let's go, Shane.
Okay, give me
6 and 10 seconds.
A few seconds here. Let me kind of work.
Come
my
on,
way up to
Shane.
this. Let me work my way up to this. All right, I'm ready. Let's do it. What do you got?
Shane, in 10 seconds, subjects in school. Go.
Math, English, science, algebra, history, gym, and band.
That's 6 because I wasn't gonna give him algebra
Okay.
because
that's fair.
algebra was
And math. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So he
but
got
that's
6.
So he
Yeah.
got 6.
He
Ravi's
did. All
turn.
right, here we go.
Thank goodness.
Here we go. Come on. Give me a good
Dude,
one.
I can still taste.
No, I can smell it. It smells
I
awful.
can still taste it on my tongue.
We've got, it's the orange one. It is Tutti Frutti or Stinky Socks.
Oh. Well, okay, so it looks like this. It's one of those two. You can choose
This
which
one here?
Okay, yeah.
Oh, no, I lost
You're
it.
good. You're good.
This guy here?
Yep, that's it.
All right.
That one, man, is Stinky Socks that bad? Tutti Frutti sounds fire.
All right. Here we go.
Hop her in.
Tutti Frutti.
Unbelievable.
Let's go. Either that or I really like Stinky Socks, but no.
This wedding is insert. All right. All right, next.
We doing
Yeah.
the one I pulled up?
Yeah, we got this one now. We're going to try to fit in 2 more here.
Okay, which one?
This guy right here.
Okay, let me I've
You
got
start
the
us
list.
off. How many do you think you can name?
3.
Ooh, I don't like this. It's not good.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 3.
Take the under.
Yeah, I'm going to say party on.
All right.
Because this is exact names. He's got to get the names. He can't just say, like, yeah, he's got to get exact names. All right, party on, Shane. You ready? Got to get 3 in 10 seconds.
Okay, go for it.
In 10 seconds, Shane, name as many Mountain Dew flavors as you can. Go.
Mountain Dew. Jeez, I should know this. Code Red.
Come on.
Come
on.
Dang it.
Come on.
Yeah, 10 seconds.
Bro.
He only got 2.
Just say Diet Mountain Dew.
He drinks it every day. Yes.
Dude.
Yes.
Voodoo.
There's one behind him. He's holding a different flavor.
Dude, you are killing me, Shane.
Spin the wheel of mayhem.
God, I better get another good one. This is trash. Oh, hold on. There we go. That's on the black one, right? Berry blue or toothpaste. That's not bad at all.
That's the easiest one.
I can do
Just pop it
toothpaste.
in.
Let's go.
I need them.
I don't even care.
This is unbelievable.
Berry blue again.
Yeah, well,
That's
sure.
good.
Why not? Why not?
That's good, clean living over here.
Aren't you glad I didn't get all those Mountain Dews?
Unbelievable.
This is delicious.
All right, we're going to try one more.
I love this game.
Let's go with. Oh, we still got some time. We may even be able to fit 2 more in.
All right, let's
What
do
do
it.
you think? The first one or this one?
Go high on this one.
Ooh, first one.
Okay. I'm not uber familiar with this, but I'm going to say Shane can name 5.
I'll go 6.
Name 7? Party on. Let's go. 6.
Shane, don't fail me. Let's go, bud.
All right, what do you got?
This is right in your
Keep 'em
wheelhouse.
honest.
Let's
in
go.
10 seconds, Shane, name as many bands as you can.
Kiss.
Go.
AC/DC, Van Halen, Def Leppard, White Snake,
Oh, son of a gun.
Bob Seger.
That's 6.
What do you need, 7?
That's 6.
Uh,
Nope, we're done.
Unbelievable.
Love it, Shane.
Bob Seger?
Yeah,
Bob
Silver
Seger.
Boat Band.
He's a band?
Yeah, it's a band.
Bob Seger Band.
He's a one-man band.
Boom. Love it. Love to see it.
What?
Love to see
I
it.
mean, I didn't say, like, what's your favorite band?
Creed,
I
baby.
didn't say Creed.
Creed.
Oh, I got to spin the wheel.
You look like genuinely terrified.
See, you got 2 good flavors. I'm due for the bad one. Oh, no.
Are we on purple or orange?
Pomegranate. It looks like purple.
I think purple, yeah.
Pomegranate or Old Bandage.
Ooh. That pink guy right there, right?
This guy, right?
You're right. Godspeed.
Unbelievable.
Here we go. Down the hatch.
Oh, that's pomegranate.
Oh, let's go.
That one tastes good.
Oh, yeah. You've got the only bad one so far.
I know, and it tastes so much better to get that on my taste buds
Oh,
than the liver
yeah.
and onion.
Dude,
Oh,
I could
my
literally,
goodness.
as soon as you bit into it, I could smell it. It
Yeah,
smelled
was-
awful.
That was disgusting.
Oh, man.
All right, well, we'll save this game. We'll play it again.
I like this game. This was fun.
We may make it a weekly game. Shane's World.
I love it. Coming up next, we've got our Warhorse Sportsbook Sports Cleanup. Get to the things that we didn't get to today, which
I'm still
there-
running to my car for some gum.
Which there
Like,
are plenty.
I'm leaving now.
Listen, dude, that
Clean this up on your own.
That liver and onion smells so bad. We love it. Andrew Rogers with a terrific game. Shane, thank you for being part of our game here. And thank you for helping me winning. We've got the sports cleanup coming up next.
Yeah, that's what I say to Ravi about this Bob Seger thing. Get out of here, little boy.
Listen, Bob Seger, banned in and of himself.
Mike on YouTube brought up the point, isn't it Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band?
That was one of his many bands. He was also in the Bob Seger system,
Which is you added system there after
Which
Bob Seger.
I think counts.
And then he had the audacity during
Oh,
the break
listen,
to tell me that Taylor Swift is a band.
So listen, if you're a solo artist and you play on stage with a band, I'm counting it.
No,
Absolutely.
that is not a band.
I'm absolutely counting it.
No, it's not.
For sure.
Because they're not on like this. When you go to a concert, it's not Kenny Chesney in the band.
No, but they are playing with him. There is a band.
No, that's not. Those are 2 different things. I had to eat a jelly bean for no reason.
Yeah, he had to eat a jelly bean because Shane.
You guys are lucky I don't know anything about music because I just said, oh, okay, I guess I'm wrong.
Yeah, you don't know anything about music. Like if you're playing with a band, it's a band.
Take advantage of me.
It's time for the Warhorse Sportsbook Sports Cleanup. lot of things we haven't been able to get to yet from the weekend.
How about MLB playoffs? We didn't even touch on that.
Listen, speaking of bands, Creed powered Texas Rangers to another victory over the
Not
Astros.
too shabby.
We're always rooting for the Astros to lose, so we love that here. They are up 1-0 in the ALCS. They will play today. I love a nice afternoon playoff baseball game. Those are my favorites. I'm a big fan.
Afternoon?
No, this one is today.
Oh,
Monday.
I was like, what do you consider afternoon?
No,
Ravi? When do you go to sleep?
Well, it depends on the day. No, this afternoon they play at 3:30 against the Astros. Then you've got Diamondbacks, Phillies in game 1 of the NLCS.
That one I'm really curious about because the Phillies, of course, last year's runner-up, but the D-backs have stormed in.
Man, they're playing hot. They're kind of one of those teams you get a little dangerous this time of year.
They have just as good of pitching as the Phillies.
Yeah. They match up with the Phillies rotation really well. This is a young
Phillies probably have the edge with is Zach Wheeler the ace or is Aaron Nola the ace? I bet Zach Wheeler's considered the ace.
I would say Wheeler.
I would say Wheeler and Gallen are neck and neck.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Gallen actually has the edge because he was the All-Star this year.
Yeah.
And then I would say Nola has the edge over Merrill Kelly.
Yes.
But then you have, I think it's Brandon Fatt and Ranger Suarez.
Yes.
And
yeah.
Those two are kind of,
coin
I'll
flip.
take whoever in that game. So all in
the
all,
pitching matchups are going to be really neck and neck.
All in all, you have the greats from Philly,
yeah.
the Bryce Harpers, the Nick Castellanoses of the world versus
you got your
the young
Turner.
guns, right? Trey Turner, can't forget him. And then it's Corbin Carroll. It's
you got
Ketel Marte.
You got the young guys on the Diamondbacks, which I think they maybe have arrived a little earlier than people expected. Had a pretty solid year, not a ton.
Alec Thomas hasn't really gotten there just yet.
No, not quite. But this team has sort of arrived a little early. I think most people are maybe looking at next year for the Diamondbacks to kind of make a run like this. But, man, they're playing as good as anybody right now. So that'll be a really interesting series to see how that plays out. It feels weird to I kind of don't mind the Phillies. Like, I know they get a lot of hate and Philadelphia fans get a lot of crap. I don't know. I kind of like the way they play.
I come from a fan base that gets tons of crap.
Well,
so
sure, yeah.
I'm in.
I just kind of like
on
the way
Diamondbacks.
I just kind of like the way they play baseball. I like the way their fans. I mean, we're talking about how passionate fans can get and be engaged in the game. Phillies fans mark every box on that checklist there. I don't know. They're just kind of fun to watch. Like I just sort of enjoy it. I don't have any attachment to Philadelphia otherwise. I just kind of like watching them play.
I'm still tasting this liver and onions.
It's pretty bad. It was pretty bad. I feel a little bad, but the one, to be fair, the Bob Seger one that you ate ended up being a good one. So I don't feel that bad about that.
Yeah, but I agree with TK here. Ravi and Shane need to eat a handful of them for that.
I'm definitely not eating a handful.
I wonder what that would taste like.
Okay, it'd be like a real, I don't know. I'm just not ready for that. It's like, I don't know. This is probably, you were probably too young for this, but they used to come out with, do you remember Jones Soda?
I've seen it before, but I never had it.
So it's pretty rare now, but they used to come out with some of these weird flavors. And one of them was a Thanksgiving meal pack. So you had one that was supposed to taste like mashed potatoes and turkey, like green beans. And then you had a
pumpkin pie one.
Yeah, pumpkin pie one. And then you had like a cranberry sauce one, which was actually not bad. But these were like brutally bad. And some people,
I just burped up liver and onions.
There's nothing like
that's awesome.
There's nothing like liver and onions at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Like once I got it off the tongue, and
now it's just sitting in the back of your throat.
My acid reflex is just like, what are you doing?
Well, I was telling you about back in the day when the Harry Potter movies were coming out. They had these every flavor jelly beans like they have in the movies, and they had one that tasted like vomit, and it was the weirdest thing.
There used to be a barf one in here.
Yeah, it burns like it does when you throw
No, wait,
up.
there is a barf one. Peach or barf.
Oh gosh, I hope I don't get that one next time. There was, it like burned in your throat the way it does when you get sick. It was bizarre, and I don't know how they accomplished it. It can't be good for you, but it was like this. I mean,
none of these are good for us.
Well, fair. It is. I mean, it's a jelly bean, but I remember eating one of those in like 9th grade, like middle school, and being kind of traumatized by it still like 20 years later. So, no, I think we'll play that game again, though. We'll see if you can get some revenge on Shane and I.
I'm for it.
Although I still feel like Shane could have just looked at his Mountain Dew bottle.
And he could have, which was right behind him.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh yeah, here's a third flavor.
Garbage.
Here's
I'm trying to figure this out.
He's trying to figure this out on his Mountain Dew flavors. You were at UNO this weekend. That's
Sure
something we
was.
didn't get to a ton. UNO swept to
Mhm.
open their season. First one was 8-1, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Let's just call it mass destruction.
Sure, yeah.
And it was goal galore by the new guys. You heard Nick Hanley over the PA system. His first as a Maverick all the time. Like it was like Maverick goal is first as a Maverick. Or,
Yeah.
It wasn't first of the season.
No,
And
first.
my buddy made note of that, and I
Ever.
said, yeah, and it's a lot of new guys on this team, and they're not all freshmen. But Tanner Ludke got the first goal of the season,
Mhm.
and it was kind of I'm going to try to make this out because I actually did not see one of the goals out of the 8.
Okay.
Believe that if you really
Well, I mean,
want
they
to or not.
They were coming pretty fast and furious. It was-
Well, I get into the elevator to go back up to hand my mic back off to Avery, and I hear the goal horn.
Yeah.
And every other goal my back is turned to. Like, I just miss every single one. So I made it a point to, whenever Shane and Mike Sauter were at the game, that I grabbed a spot in their section to watch the second goal be scored.
Yeah.
But I think that one got called back for offside. So I can't be.
You didn't see a legitimate one the entire
really
weekend?
sure. I think so.
That's what
I think
happens when
that's
you're
right.
working. You know,
Yeah,
you miss some
I'm just
stuff.
running around making sure things are going off
Yeah.
without a hitch. And if you want to go to a Maverick hockey game, I'm sure at some point we'll play a game on this show where tickets will be given
Ooh,
away.
yeah.
And the next series is Ohio State, which will be a really good one. But yes, they beat Niagara. They swept them. They got swept last year, 4-3 in both games. So it's a great start to the season for the Mavs as they won their exhibition at Mankato, and now they got the sweep against Niagara. So expect this team to start creeping up in
Some
the
of
top
those
25
rankings.
poll.
Yeah, so they do have a little break before they play Ohio State. They don't play that until the 27th. It's almost 2 weeks between those games there. But like you said, that will be at Baxter Arena. They've got a nice little home stretch here before to start the season before going on the road in basically a month from now to go to Denver.
Last week, did you ever get to the Japanese high school baseball prospect that's coming over here to play college baseball? Did you ever get to that?
No, we didn't talk about it. I did read an article about it, but that's like a really interesting move for him.
Yeah, because not going to play
In
Japanese
baseball
professional in Japan, he can come play in Major League Baseball earlier
Sooner.
by coming to college.
Yeah, so
here in the States.
The rule with Japanese born players is if they play
Is it the
professional.
NPO?
NBO, Nippon Baseball Organization, I think.
Yes, okay.
So they have a 9-year rule, a 9-year commitment. So if you play professional baseball in Japan, you're a Japanese-born player, you have to commit to 9 years.
Mhm.
Sometimes they will post you about a year or two early, but you're minimum probably 25 before you're going to have a chance to play in American organized baseball. He's skipping that process by coming to college over here because I don't believe he can automatically enter the draft because of the way their rules are set up. But you can go to college,
Mhm.
and he's going to give himself an opportunity to play professional baseball in America dramatically sooner.
But
But he's betting on himself, right?
Right.
Because he's giving up money, right?
Mhm.
Because he'd be
Sure.
one of the top few picks in the draft this year.
But he knows how much money you can make if you actually become something in
Right.
Major League Baseball here in the U.S. And
But
seeing
again,
what Shohei Ohtani's been doing, he's like, well, if I can be something similar
For sure.
as one of the greaters or one of the greats in baseball, I'll come here and do that first. But the reason I wanted to bring it up
Yeah.
is because wherever he goes to college,
Mhm.
think about him ending up in Omaha here. For
oh,
the
it's going to be
CWS.
a circus because there's so much media attention.
That's going to be insane.
Well,
It's going to be so fun to watch.
I just remember, so there was a player who did not play for Creighton, by the way. He was on the team for a year, but his name was Kobe Paris, and his dad was a celebrity in the Philippines. I think he was like an actor or soap star or something like that in the Philippines. So he was very famous, grew up famous, but there was a circus around this kid. He barely played. I mean, like garbage time, and not
Mhm.
even the first guy off the bench in garbage time. Played for Creighton, and any media he did, like he had his own media team. Like you had to go through his people to
Right.
get any access to him.
That's kind of
And
what
it's gonna
happens
be
though,
like
with
that.
those kids.
Yeah, when
those
when they're
guys.
really famous and have
Mhm.
high profile overseas, they end up with these kind of crazy media teams.
At the Pinnacle Bank Championship this year, Arnold Palmer's grandson
Oh,
was
sure.
playing.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't actually finish in the top tier, but everybody wanted
Yeah.
to talk to him. Every media session he's done this year has been about being Arnold Palmer's grandson.
Absolutely. That is the Warhorse Sportsbook Sports Cleanup. We will be back tomorrow for more of Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590 ESPN Tri-Cities and KFOR in Lincoln.
Yes, sir.